live radio show. We are back. We are live on YouTube. We are live right here on TikTok. The podcast is out as well. Welcome to the show. You can call in. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to answer your questions. 407-504-1889. 407-504-1889. If you're watching on TikTok, help us hit that gift goal. That's going to let us know you support what we're doing here. We got lots to talk about. We got Disney to talk about. We got pop culture to talk about. There's so much going on. Crazy week here in our country. 407-504-1889. 407-504-1889. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. I forgot how to do all this. 407-504-1889. I don't know what's working and what's not working. I think the comments are off on YouTube. The comments are off on TikTok. Because listen, let's be honest. The first question is going to be are you okay? Second question is going to be, where have you been? Third question is going to be, are you not going to the parks? So forget all of that, because this is where we are. And if you want to hang out, and you want to hang out for the next few hours and talk and discuss things, we've got Rivers of America to discuss. I want to talk about what happened with the Wicked dolls over the weekend. I want to talk about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. There's so much to talk about. I will talk about the election. If you listen to the podcast, you know I'm a centrist. So no vilification here, but lots to discuss, lots to unpack. 407-504-1889, live on TikTok, live on YouTube. It's a one-man show. I'm so fortunate to do this podcast every weekend with Kenzie. Go check it out. It's called Under the Influence, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But one of the things that's important to me is discussing issues. One of the things that's important to me is discussion. Unfortunately, I think we live in a world where people are relegated to their corners and they don't discuss things, point blank, period. I'm a millennial, okay? I am from the generation of doing your research. I remember the advent of Windows, of a GUI. I remember dial-up internet. I remember bibliographies. I remember not believing everything I read just because it was on the internet. You know what I'm trying to say? So I've been thinking a lot about the last week. I've been thinking a lot, not just about the state of our country. I've been thinking a lot about the state of our beloved Disney theme parks. But I want to start with this Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing, because I love pop culture. I love nostalgia. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm of the mindset that this Jake Paul is going to get obliterated, like absolutely obliterated. And I'm so curious what you think about this. I know that age is a you-know-what, but I really do think that this guy, we were talking on the podcast yesterday about transitioning from, I was citing Ariana Grande, transitioning from music to acting, Jake Paul from YouTube to boxing. There's so many folks that leave their comfort zone in the pursuit of something else. I think in the case of this Jake Paul, I was watching a clip before I came on of him and Mike Tyson sitting across from each other. And Jake Paul's got all the bravado. And then at the very end, when Mike Tyson's done saying what he's got to say, Jake Paul goes, "Let's go." But instead of a very energized "let's go," it's a very deflated. Go find the clip. If I was prepared, I'd play it. "Let's go," And he said he is so petrified. He said it's his time. He's been chosen. The guy's going to get obliterated unless the whole thing is a fix. If it's a legit fight, he's obliterated. But it's going to be so entertaining and so cathartic, right? So cathartic to watch some YouTuber get obliterated by Iron Mike. And I'm not even like some big Mike Tyson fan. I do love watching boxing far more than anything on UFC or any of the MMA stuff. So I want to hear from you. 407-461-9457. The other part of that is the whole Lunchly phenomenon. If you're familiar with Lunchly, Lunchly is it's Logan Paul and KSI and Mr. Beast teamed up to use their mighty power as influencers to feed crap to kids. Lunchly is the alternative to Lunchables. Lunchly has been known to have mold in the cheese. The packaging, I guess, is not being done right to seal and preserve the products. But these three guys have tens of millions of followers amongst themselves. Tens upon tens of millions of followers. And what do they choose to do with their influence? Sell more processed crap to kids. I would really like to live in a world where, if this is what it is, if alternative media is the new media, then maybe for those of us that have a little bit of reach, I got some really kind messages for saying what I said yesterday on the podcast, but maybe those of us that have a little bit of reach can actually use it to be productive and not to double down on all the things that are wrong with our culture or what's left of a culture. Three really powerful influencers, at least based off the metrics, teaming up to feed crap to kids is not wielding your influence with much authority or really any leadership. So for me personally, I would like to say that as I contemplate what the future of this platform looks like, much like we did helping Keena in North Carolina, I would like to be looking towards you and your communities, our communities, and figuring out what we can do to contribute to making things better for us as a collective, okay? Not using the little bit of influence we may have to double down on the problem. So I have a huge issue with that, but I'm so excited for the fight, and I guess part of me just wants to watch this Jake Paul. Also, 2 first names. What a red flag. But I just want to watch him get his head knocked off, in plain English. Like, I'm so excited for that. 407-504-1889. I was supposed to go to the Christmas party. I'm going to fix this camera angle. What do you think about that? Can I do that on the fly? Am I professional enough to do that? I might be, might not be. I was supposed to go to the Christmas party. I didn't go. They refund you, whatever. I have to tell you, I had no desire to go. Part of me didn't feel like going to the same old party that they've been doing for the last 3, 4, 5 years. It's $200, and I love Christmas in Disney. It's $200. They haven't done anything to improve upon the event. I heard Jollywood had Doctor Strange, which makes no sense to me because there's no presence of Marvel in Hollywood studios, or no true Marvel presence. But I didn't go because, A, I didn't feel like doing the whole streaming thing, which, by the way, if you're watching on TikTok, helping us hit that gift goal is going to help us know that you like what we're doing here. But I didn't feel like going to the parks and running around and competing with the crowds to do the same old thing. It's all on my YouTube. It's nothing new. I know people want to hang out. But I'm having a really hard time supporting the decisions the Walt Disney Company keeps making. They had D23 in Brazil the other day. By the way, if you want to call in and discuss this with me, 407-504-1889. They had D23 in Brazil, and they released a preview of what's going to replace Rivers of America. And we'll talk more about it as you call in and whatnot. But I was so taken aback by the lackluster ride system. Somebody had posted a link to a YouTube video that was the actual ride system, not the mock-up, the simulation that they showed at D23, but the actual ride system itself. And I'm like, you have all the land. People always want to go, well, you know what? Walt said the parks are going to change. Walt also said that that Disney World, there's enough land in Florida to do everything that they could ever dream of. So why you need to rip out what, by the definition of the founder, is the heart and soul of Disney World, which is Liberty Square and the river, to rip that out when you have all the land you could possibly need. And don't tell me it's a capacity issue. Don't tell me that it's thank you. Don't tell me that it's an issue in terms of competing with Universal, the Magic Kingdom is the most popular theme park on the planet. I'll say it again. The Magic Kingdom is the most popular theme park on the planet. There is no reason to do it. I'm all for the Villains expansion. Keep what you've got and do that somewhere else. Also, it's a horrible looking ride system. It's going to be down all the time because A, they're using a trackless system, and you know how your trackless rides like Rise of Resistance and Runaway Railway and Remy go down all the time. Add on top of that the fact that the Magic Kingdom goes 101, which means it goes down for thunderstorms all the time, and the bulk of the attractions at MK go 101 pretty quick when storms come rolling in. Okay, so now you have another outdoor attraction that's going to go 101 as soon as a thunderstorm comes rolling in. And in Florida summers, that's like every afternoon around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So what problem are we solving? We're certainly not plussing the park. Am I wrong? Am I out of touch? Would Walt have liked it? Do you like it? Do you even follow me on Twitter? Not that you need to. 407-504-1889. You know, I used to do a radio show way back in the day before podcasting was even a term, okay? And the thing that I love about radio is that you actually get to talk to people. One of the things about the comments on the live stream, it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the same. But as soon as somebody calls in here and we start talking, you know, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're gonna drill down on what the future of Disney is, okay? We're gonna drill down on what the future of this country is. And I still want to hear what you have to say about this fight coming up on Friday, okay? But I got a whole list here. So I didn't go to the Christmas party. I was very focused on doing other things, editing, and quite frankly, gaming. I've been playing a lot of StarCraft 2, if you know that game. But I've been thinking about this platform. I've been spending a lot of time pre- and post-election thinking about this platform. I used to do radio before podcasting was a term. I say this all the time. I just said it. I like the idea of doing what we've been doing for the last 3.5 years, but going beyond it. I like the idea of making this a place to conversate more. I like the idea of really appealing to the centrist and everybody on all issues. You know, I really like the idea of using this platform to get back to something that I remember growing up, which was civil discourse. You know, when I was growing up, people didn't discuss who they voted for or how they aligned politically. You know, you respected your elders. Okay, there was decorum. You respected authority. You respected your teachers. People aren't even nice to each other anymore. If you say hi to somebody walking down the sidewalk, they give you side eye because they're like, why are you talking to me? So I just like the idea of getting back to a little civility, pulling people towards the center. Doesn't mean we can't go to the parks and have fun. But where my heart is focused right now is on figuring out what to do with whatever it is that I've put together over the last 3.5 years. Because there's more than just running around the theme park. I didn't think I'd be doing it this long. It'd be very easy to just keep doing what I'm doing and not care. I think my fault is I care too much. I care too much about this country. I care too much about the working class. I care too much about trying to make an actual difference. So for me, as somebody that actually was able, and I see out of the corner of my eye, somebody's dropping turkeys on my head on TikTok. Thank you for your support. Knocking out that gift goal is going to let me know that you want me to keep doing these, because I've been very insecure about coming on here and speaking my mind. You know, it's a lot to do this radio thing to keep the ball in the air. We've only been going for about 15 minutes. My goal is to do much longer than that today. I got a lot to talk about. Call 407-504-1889. We're live on YouTube. Go follow me over there. I think it's Disney World Live. I don't even know. Disney, what is it over there? Disney Parks Live, maybe? I don't know. I'm a horrible social media influencer. I'd much rather be a radio host. 407-504-1889. So I didn't go to the Christmas party. And I just been thinking a lot about this. And I used to do a radio show, like I said, back in the day. And I just started to build a list of things I wanted to talk about. And not everything is Disney. Not everything is Disney, but you know what? We're going to go to the phone. Hold on one second. I got so many machines going on here. Let's see. We have 615 in the house. 615, you're on the air.
To send a voicemail, press 2.
See, I'm using the Google Voice. I like I missed the call. See, this is the problem. I need a team. I usually use a multi-phone system. I'm doing everything on my own. They'll call back, and I'll get it. But call 407-504-1889. So, you sit down and you think about, I really want to do this. And then I start to think of the technical side. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you got to do the phone thing, and then you got to hook the thing to the thing. And I'm going to need an iPad over here to check on news updates, because if we're doing this long enough, there's always going to be breaking news. So it's an evolution. You learn as you go. But if you call back, I'll do my best to answer that. I'll fix any problems for the next time. But show your support by hitting that gift goal over on TikTok. Let me know that you like what we're doing. We'll get that call back when we get it back. So I have to just go back to this Wicked thing. At the very end of the podcast yesterday, I mentioned to Kenzie how excited I am for Wicked. Like, I am super excited for Wicked. I love Wicked. And I wasn't going to get the dolls. Why would I get the Wicked dolls? I'm a grown man. I appreciate them, but I don't need Wicked dolls. But over the weekend, I'm trying to turn off my ringer. Over the weekend, it was determined that the link on the back, it's not a link, but the listing for the link for the URL on the back of the Wicked dolls doesn't link to the Wicked movie website. It links to the Wicked pornographic website. Nobody vetted this packaging. The collector in me almost left the house and went to Walmart, because the collector in me just wants them to resell later because they're going to be worth something. I had to talk myself out of it. I'm like, it's absurd. Just focus on what you're doing, right? Finish editing, whatever you're doing. But here's the kicker for me. I had the news on in the background. I have CNN on. CNN is my white noise in more ways than one. I like the personalities over there. I think that they're insanely biased. All the news organizations are insanely biased. That's just the one I choose to listen to. I want to know what's going on in the world. But it's all garbage, right? So you pick your poison. I'll jump between the other ones occasionally. Very infrequently MSNBC. I like to hear what's going on Fox. But CNN is my white noise. I like talk. I'm not watching. I'm listening. So it's on in the background. So they go to the Wicked story. The packaging has a bad link on the back. Here's advice, parents. Here's what you can do to circumvent the issue. You can throw out the packaging, or you can actually obstruct the web address on the back of the packaging. Do we really need a news story to tell people how to handle this? We really need a news story to tell people how to throw things out? How to use whiteout? Maybe that's where we're broken. Why are we talking down to people? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the news media needs to stop talking down to people. I'm not saying everybody knows what to do in that situation. You are correct to assume that there are some people that aren't as bright as others. But we really need to explain to parents. If you have to explain to parents what to do with toy packaging that may or may not have explicit content on the back of it, if you need to tell a parent what to do, if you're a parent and you need to watch the news to find out what to do in that situation, you shouldn't be parenting. And if the news actually, does the news really think that's newsworthy? I remember being in journalism class. I think it was called the pregnant eye, the pyramid, and everything was, the idea of something being newsworthy was if it was informative and it had to go up the pyramid. And if something wasn't newsworthy, then it never made it into the news. What happened to deeming things newsworthy? Sure, it's newsworthy. Hey, listen, you may get salmonella from your Wicked dolls. Okay, yeah. Heads up, there's a recall, all right? But, here's what to do. Don't eat the salmonella. Thank you. I mean, at what point are we just talking down to people? So now if you want to look at what just happened this last week in this country, that's all the Democrats do is talk down to people. And I'm an independent, folks. So, if you want to tune out, go for it. But at the end of the day, The problem is that we spend more time talking down to people in this country than we do talking to people or with people. And we certainly don't spend enough time listening to people. I'm going to make this play for the phones again. 615, you're on the air.
Good morning, Roy.
Good morning. Who's this?
So this is Deborah, but you might recognize me from TikTok as well, Catwoman. I've been following you for a little while in your Disney content, which I much appreciated. It's made some of my days better, so thank you for that.
Well, that's very sweet.
So this morning I've been sort of watching you on TikTok and listening to this and all of that, and talking about uncertainty and what's coming and things like that. And I want to thank you for a community that we can, get on and just do Disney when you're doing Disney. But I think one of the things that we all need to be talking about more is building our communities.
That is so true. And no one's going to hear you on TikTok, by the way. They're going to hear you on YouTube right now. I understand the way I have this set up because Kenzie just messaged me. So the comment to those listening on TikTok and not on YouTube is that we need to focus on community.
I mean, we have become a society so dependent on electronics that we don't know our neighbors.
It's true.
That we don't have, I have a very small group of friends. I'm very much an introvert. I'm not going to go out there and hang out with 100 people somewhere. It makes me anxious. I have a very small group of friends that I've had for over 20 years. I love them. We talk to each other. We do things together. Sometimes we sit around and do nothing together. But I think we've lost the sense of feeling. And I think that one of the things that you have provided us through TikTok, through YouTube, through all of this is a sense of belonging. And I think that, maybe we need to take that from a digital perspective and come back to our communities and talk to our neighbors. I think that part of what would help us all is a connection, and I have a very difficult time with that. But I think that as you have been saying, trying to figure out your next steps, where you're going, what you're doing, that we as a community, if we help back you and build our community, that we gain some of our humanity back and lose some of our digital connection that we've become so accustomed to. We feel free to just say whatever the heck we want, whenever the heck we want.
Well, and everything you're saying right now, and again, you can hear it on YouTube if you're not hearing it on TikTok, and you won't hear it on TikTok. Everything you're saying right now would never be communicated to me in a comment, in a chat on a live, because A, I'd have to see it. B, there's not enough room for it, and it's going to get, it's just going to get drowned out, and there's not enough time to respond. What I love about this right now is not only do I agree with you, but you have to understand from my perspective, hearing you say that to me gives me so much motivation. I have been so nervous to do this. I used to do this all the time. In my 20s, I would have just hit go. Now I overthink everything because I don't want to respond with my gut as present as it is these days, because I don't want to vilify. And I think if we're too emotional with our responses, then we're never going to meet people in the middle. So to speaking to your point about the community backing me and then in turn backing the community, and we just dropped the call, and that's okay. I think what real community is conversation. You don't need to convince people to agree with you, okay? But you can convince people to understand you. I understand what just happened in this country. I'm not happy about it, but if I'm pointing fingers at anyone, I'm pointing fingers at the Democrats because they played the game wrong. But what I do know at the end of the day is that neither one of these parties are talking about working class issues. And what I do know as a millennial that has constantly done their homework and doesn't believe everything that's told to them without a little due diligence, even just a little bit, what I do know, okay, is that there's going to be a lot of people with buyer's remorse. I said this yesterday. And we need to meet people in the middle and not go, I told you so, what's wrong with you? Even if that's how you feel. So that was a really lovely call, and thank you for that. And I will continue to work out the phone system. There's a much better phone system I could be using, but it's just a matter of trying to get it all done. So let me see. 412, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hey now.
Hi, this is Todd. I'm calling for Roy.
Todd, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I'm just watching your live. Pretty much exactly agreeing with what you're saying about the Democrats.
You agree with what I'm saying?
Yes. You know who I am.
I appreciate that. I don't know who you are, and if I did, I wouldn't admit it anyway. But yeah, listen.
Exactly.
I think that you really here's what rocks my mind, Todd.
Yeah.
The Democrats now are like, well, we didn't know which way to play it, we didn't know which way to look, and we still don't know which way to look. And somebody who I generally don't even really care for has been right this whole time, and that's Bernie Sanders. Okay. He's the only one telling them that they effed up. And again, I'm not a Democrat.
You know what? I completely agree about Bernie. His message, yeah, I agree with it a lot. He is just honestly not the right messenger for it a lot of times.
He is not the right messenger.
I feel like we need to go with somebody younger, somebody who actually understands what it's like to be struggling for money.
So
He's been in politics for what, like 50 years? I don't actually know.
And what has he done? I have been, and mind you, he's an independent, but he sides with the Dems, and that's fine. I get it. I'm all for that. Okay. I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Bucks County, Pennsylvania is where Donald Trump went to McDonald's. Bucks County, Pennsylvania is a swing county. It is a major part of every general election. It was a huge part of this election. Okay. I went to. What's that?
I thought you were from New York for some reason.
I went to school on Long Island. So real quick, so I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, went to school on Long Island, lived in Manhattan, spent 2 decades in L.A. So I've made my way through some major media markets, okay? But
right.
Bucks County, Pennsylvania, it doesn't get any more working class than that. I watched it go from farms to housing developments, and I mean, I watched it. And these folks don't play party politics. These folks will vote for whoever is speaking with them, not down to them. These folks will vote whichever direction speaks to them. They are not relegated to party. So it's lost on me how it's lost on the Democrats that they don't know, we didn't know how to do it this year. We didn't know which way to speak. Stop trying to fake the funk and just be real. Just be real.
Dude.
It's not that hard to talk to working class folks and go, I get it.
You are absolutely right. In being union, it's very tough because I work with a lot of people who are very red.
Right.
And being union, it's like this guy really he's tried to screw us over entirely with, like, he's anti-union. He's been busting that stuff all along. And it's just fighting the horrible right-wing populism whenever it's these people who are trying to screw you over.
Well, unfortunately, the Republicans are better at executing their playbook, and the Democrats don't have a playbook. This is why I've been an independent my whole life. I've been an independent my whole life because the Democrats are spineless jellyfish. They always have been. And they always will be.
Right.
Okay. And the Republicans are cynical, and they're so good at it because they'll lie to their constituents' faces, okay, and convince them to vote against their own self-interests. But here's what scares me, Todd. Now, if you go onto Twitter, because I'm not calling it X, because it sounds like some sort of third-rate Marvel Academy for superheroes, okay? I'm mystified now that all these people are shouting Gavin Newsom. I'm like, what's wrong with you? First of all, that's Nancy Pelosi's nephew, number one. Number two, he's a weasel. Okay, and number three, he's done nothing to solve any of the problems in California. Stop looking for a demigod.
No, I'm completely with you on that. Personally, granted, I'm not exactly a fan of Democrats myself, but at this point, I feel like we don't have much of a choice. I hate this two-party system that we're stuck into. I would much rather it be like a ranked choice voting or somebody. I want third party.
Yeah, I would like some sort of runoff voting. I used to believe in third party, but you can see why third party doesn't work. Look, here's the bottom line. And people don't want to talk about politics, but it's humanity. And Kenzie hit that right on the head yesterday. People need to meet people in the middle. I am not coming on here to vilify people for their decisions. I'm here to remind people to be accepting and meet each other in the middle, so the next time that we're here, which in theory is in 2 years, okay, the next time that we have this opportunity, we can meet people in the middle with discourse and maybe get a little bit closer to getting something done. But we do have to break through this two-party system at some point, because these politicians, they don't care. They don't care about you.
Right.
They don't care about your kids. They do not care about anything other than lining their pockets with special interest dollars, okay, getting their free postage stamps and making sure that they have some cushy cable news job or a book deal or something later when they get out of office. Okay, so we do need term limits,
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not, we can't solve this stuff right now. And we weren't going to solve it, by the way, by electing Kamala. All I'm saying is now, okay, and this is where the Democrats dropped the ball, now you've got to work overtime to bring back the people you lost before you can even go expanding. The reason that the
Kamala was always just going to be a status quo.
Status quo is not
Trump
enough.
Is kind of no, it isn't.
And you
unfortunately, but it's very tough in a two-party system whenever your choice is status quo or somebody who actually is looking to fully dismantle the system in a way that is not beneficial to the average person.
I'm all for dismantling the system, but to your point, it has to be advantageous.
Right. I am 100% for dismantling the oligarchy and those who, like the Elon Musks of the world, who own Twitter, own the absolute debate space, essentially. And they're the ones who can put out the misinformation and disinformation, but none of it benefits the average person. All of it goes to the uber wealthy.
My favorite holiday as a child was Bastille Day. Okay.
July 14th.
July 14th, day after my birthday. So I always felt like I had 2 days of a birthday, because as a kid, I went to an international camp. I mean, it was in New York, but it was all international. So we celebrated Bastille Day. Okay. But I loved Bastille Day because it was the people taking the power into their hands. So I support destroying the system for good. Okay. I don't want to destroy the people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to destroy the people.
100% with you there.
Okay. That's all I'm saying. So when buyer's remorse starts to kick in, let's just remember to meet people in the middle, so we can find a solution, okay, that's going to stop dividing people. The reason the Republican Party is now the big tent is because it's filled with fragmented people that just voted against their own self-interest based off of fear. And I'm not saying voting for the Democrats was the answer. I'm just having a conversation. The Democrats don't even understand what they stand for anymore. So I can't fault people for running from that. And especially when they tell you, listen, we got to save democracy, but let's completely undermine it, and then we'll save it. People aren't that stupid. At least not the ones at Bucks County, Pennsylvania that you're trying to convince. You can't tell people to only listen to you when you need them to and to disregard how they feel. Status quo, to your point, isn't enough, and you can't tell people that it is.
No, I completely agree with that. My main point with the status quo is it didn't benefit the average person one side. My main fear is that whenever we say we're looking for the middle keeps progressively going further right, and we're getting to a point where the mainstream Republican nominee is no longer just a conservative. It's a person who really agrees with a lot of fascistic ideals. It's not somebody who is, okay, that I disagree on the capital gains tax. It's more of, I disagree with the fact that a person should be part of the LGBTQ group. They should not be allowed to exist. They should not be allowed to be happy.
Right,
it's just my fear that we're othering a lot of people, immigrants and that. And it's no longer just a disagreement between fiscal responsibility. It's a disagreement between morals.
Well, this is what Kenzie said on the podcast yesterday. So you just used the term othering. And what that means is I can only really focus on one issue at a time. That's really what othering is, right? Because it's like, well, listen, I understand that over there, but this is more important for me over here. And I think, to your point, look, everything that I'm conveying right now, I firmly believe is an independent centrist mindset. But to your point, this is probably, by the progressive left, the things that I'm saying are being considered center right or right of center. Okay? So to your point, that's how far off the mark that the progressive left has come. That the idea of meeting people in the middle is too extreme. You can't even...
When it comes to that...
Do you remember? Okay, look, I'm going to age myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't around for Lenny Bruce. Okay?
Of course.
All right? But go look at what Lenny Bruce used to say. Lenny Bruce used to say that liberals can understand everything but people that don't understand them. And I'm probably paraphrasing. All right? Lenny Bruce was so ahead of his time. Okay? He also said Alaska should secede from the nation. And this was way back. And I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying the guy was way ahead of the curve. I could go on about Lenny Bruce. I won't. Because George Carlin jumped in the car with Lenny Bruce when Lenny Bruce was getting arrested. And Lenny Bruce is like, what are you doing here? And Carlin's like, I'm going along for the ride. But anyway, Lenny Bruce nailed it all the way back then. In black and white, man. Nailed it all the way back then. Just because people don't agree with you doesn't mean that they're wrong. They might be, but you got to have some understanding. And what this election just showed everyone, okay, is that you don't understand. And Michael Smirkanish made a comment on his show Sunday morning, and yes, I'm like a 78-year-old Jewish guy from Boca Raton because I listen to Michael Smirkanish, okay? But Donald Trump is a part of this culture, and he always has been.
Exactly.
And people know who he is, for better or worse. They had no clue who she was. And if I've got my one issue, it's very easy to go that way and other everything else. So watch. I know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen, because even though I don't know who you are, we've talked about this. Okay? So like, look.
Fair enough.
Just meet people in the middle. That's all I'm saying. Meet people in the middle. Don't go vilifying somebody because you don't agree with them. Try to understand why. And you don't have to convince each other. You just got to sometimes accepting the fact that
I'm completely on board with that.
No, I know you
like
are.
The average,
I mean, I'm assuming you are.
The average person, I'm fully, like, I'll meet you in the middle. I don't care. But my fear is whenever you're getting to people who are like the extremists.
The Nick Fuenteses.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember his name. The Your Body, My Choice guy.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
To me, there is no middle whenever you're dealing with somebody like that. Whenever you're dealing with the average Joe who is like, I'm worrying about my 401k, fine. I will gladly meet you in the middle.
And that's
I will try to debate you with that garbage.
Talk to me about policy.
Right.
But
the Nick Fuentes of the world, the Ben Shapiro's, yeah, I'm not going to be on your side.
What did Nick Fuentes say? Your body, my choice.
Right.
My fist, your face. That's my response to that.
Exactly.
Like civil discourse goes out the window at that point.
Exactly.
So,
and to me, that's what the current incoming administration is representing. It's not representing the average voice of the people from Bucks County, Allegheny County, whatever, from Pennsylvania.
Well, it is and it isn't, because you got to look at it. It was pretty much split down the middle. So it does represent, okay? It doesn't mean that everybody that voted agrees with a Nick Fuentes, but what it means is that, to your point about othering, that didn't factor in. And for people that are working 2 and 3 jobs, that are struggling to make ends meet, democracy and racism and gay rights might not factor in, especially if you add on top of that you don't know one candidate, you know the other candidate, and you're scared.
Yeah, if you're a straight white man, what are the Democrats what are they promising you
straight
at
white
this
man.
point?
Let me tell you something. So the other day I'm sitting there and I Googled women's history, and I was reading all the key dates on women's history, because, most women probably don't even realize, because I've spoken to a few friends, like, oh my gosh, wow, we really didn't even have rights all the way back into the 60s, huh? Like, go Google the women's right movement and just go look how many women couldn't even initiate divorce at one point. So, okay, fine.
Right.
Then you know what I did? I Googled men's rights, the history of men's rights. You want to know what came up? Nothing. Because it's just called history. It's just called history.
History is written by the victors.
That's right. History is a white man's game. Sorry.
Absolutely is.
All right. So, like, I don't get it. So, I'm with you 110%. If to those people, and I don't think the bulk of those people, the bulk of those voters, what was your name again?
Todd.
I don't think that the bulk of those voters speak to that. But I think that small amount that feel that way are now emboldened by this victory. But that doesn't mean that everybody that voted Republican in this election is now suddenly a Nazi sympathizer. That is dangerous. That is yelling fire in a crowded building. And when you fast forward 10, 15 years from now, when we have a real problematic person running for office, because Donald Trump is problematic, but Donald Trump is not Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was Adolf Hitler. Donald Trump is Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is incompetent.
He's Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was an evil genius.
Yes.
I'm sorry. He was an evil genius.
The only thing that's saving us from Trump is his incompetence.
But that's also the thing that's going to hurt us, because the people around him are what I fear.
Right.
Okay? So to that point,
I completely agree with that.
We'll meet
Project
people.
2025 is terrifying.
Look, we'll meet people in the middle. At the end of the day, I understand it. I don't like it. But I really think
I'll meet the average voter. I won't meet the average.
Yeah, but you want to know who the real lesson? The real lesson right now is incumbent on the Democrats, because there's a midterm coming up in 2 years, and if they want to do anything to help the working class, now is the time to wake the F up, okay? Because people will find you in the middle. They will update their messaging. They need messaging. I worked on the Barack Obama campaign in 2008. Let me tell you real quick how bad the DNC is. Okay, the DNC doesn't even take their own ground game seriously. To schedule a volunteer on the calendar system for the DNC in 2008, you could do one person, one scheduling at a time. What does that mean? It means I go into the calendar, I drill down to the day, I drill down to the action item, I grab the action item, I put it in the calendar. But now suddenly, I think you said it was Todd, I want to schedule you for 2 days in a row. I got to back all the way out to the top of the system and drill back down. I can't go into the system and now say Todd is going to do Tuesday and Wednesday. Let me extend that. Inefficiencies. Right. The system was completely inefficient. It took 20 minutes to schedule a volunteer. Okay, and by the way, because I said it, I worked in the Barack Obama campaign in 2008 for months on end. She did not have Barack Obama energy. Not personally, not at the crowd level, not at the campaign level. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie.
No, she didn't have the charisma either.
No.
I liked her personally, but there was just a lot to be desired.
And I'm not even happy with Barack Obama these days. The way Barack Obama was talking down during this past campaign was pathetic.
Yeah.
Look, I
the
worked
only
in that
part
campaign.
of it I liked was the Eminem.
What about Eminem?
The only part I liked with Obama this time was his appearance with Eminem.
Oh my God. Barack, and here's the thing. Barack Obama is such an egomaniac that he rehearsed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
He's like, his arms are sweaty. His knees are weak. His palms are heavy. There's vomit already on his mom's spaghetti. Applause break. Y'all ready?
To be honest, if you run for president, you have to have an egomaniacal background.
Yeah, you do.
No normal person would want to be a president.
By the way, Eminem looked like a hostage on the stage. A hostage. He had his hood up over his eyes. I'm like, we already know it's you. Just take the hood off, bro. Like, come on, Marshall. Come on, Slim. But Slim, what if they win? Wouldn't it be weird? Why, y'all lied just to get me here? Anyway, pleasure to talk to you. We're gonna switch gears here. I almost read your number out loud. Thank you for your call, Todd. Thank you. Give us a call. That was great. I want to hear what you have to say. We got a lot more to talk about. I gotta hang up, or he'll hang up, and then I'll give. But give us a call. Give us a call. 407-504-1889. I went to a media event. I think I mentioned this. I mentioned it yesterday. I don't know if I mentioned it today. I went to a media event last Monday, 2 Mondays ago. And it was at the Swan, the Dolphin and Swan. And I have to tell you, like, it is not me. That is not my world. Surrounded by a bunch of quote unquote content creators and influencers. That is not my world, man. I got to tell you. But hold on, let's go to the phones. Hold on. I don't know why this other phone is ringing. That's all good. We're going to get it done. 330-330. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hello, Royce. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is Jessica, by the way.
Hi, Jessica.
So I heard you. I was listening to you talking about basically politics. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not super great with politics. I'm young. I'm only 30 years old. To be honest with you, I never followed politics really when I was young. Never really paid attention to it. I was like, what do I need to pay attention to it for? So as I got older, I'm like, maybe I should have paid attention to it more. But also I'm stating that I'm a Canadian. I'm not American. I'm going to throw that out there. So when I found out that Trump was running, I was like, okay, all right, great. A little scared, to be honest, because Trump has also said that he doesn't really like Canada, which kind of, okay, fine. You don't like Canada? That's okay. All right. He really doesn't like Trudeau. He's made that pretty clear. That's one thing me and him agree on. I don't like Trudeau very much either, but it is what it is. Yeah, so when I found out that he was president, I was kind of like, oh, great. Trump's president. What's going to happen now? You know, like, he's making it, I feel like he's going to make it hard for Canadians too, because I know he's the president of the United States, but he also is going to make, I feel like he's also going to make it a little harder for us, because he's also said that he is going to tax things a bit harder for us too, like, because we get, like, a lot of us get, like, Canada gets, like, most of our fruits and vegetables from America, right? We get it from, like, Florida, we get it from California.
Right.
So he automatically said, when it comes to, like, the border, that he's going to tax it, like, real hard when it gets there, basically. So
but
now
did,
it's
but
like,
did
oh,
he?
great.
Did he say that? He said he was going to tax imports, not exports. Did he?
Yeah, he said he's going to tax because he doesn't like us.
don't even
I
think
know
he
if this is,
knows.
like,
Listen, I'm not sure he knows what tariffs
honestly,
are. Okay, honestly,
I don't think he does either,
no.
honestly.
But I don't think
He
most
really
people know
doesn't
what tariffs are. Tariffs are taxes. Tariffs are taxes. And I think very quickly what's
Yeah.
going to happen is, whether he listens or not, it's another story. But the adults are going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. The best thing you could do right now for the economy is nothing and take all the credit. So here's a funny thing. In the television and film industry, if you replace the CEO of a studio, okay, that CEO inherits whatever's in the production pipeline. Because it takes time to make movies and television, right? So like when Eisner
Yeah.
took over the Walt Disney Company, he had a lot of hits.
Mhm.
He had some flops, but he had a lot of hits that he took credit for that he had nothing to do with. They were just on his desk. The economy
Oh my.
functions the same way. There's a delay. The best thing he could do is not touch it and take all the credit in the world for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That would probably be great because like the economy here in Canada isn't great either. Like everything is like so expensive. It's unbelievable.
Sure, I
just
get
can't.
it. But tariffs aren't going to make
It's
things
awful.
less expensive. The thing that I kept hearing was that and I talked about this on the podcast yesterday, which is, by the way, is called Under the Influence, wherever you listen to your podcast. If they tax imports coming into the country, okay, the idea is to make people lean on American goods. But there's not going to be a solution for everything. And in turn, it's not going to drive those prices down. It's only going to bring them up. If the competition,
exactly.
let me ask you something. If the competition raises their prices, doesn't that give you the room to raise yours too? You wouldn't lower your prices. You can still be the lowest guy and raise your prices. Why wouldn't you?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what the plan is. I don't think he knows what the plan is. This is the problem. Listen, I know people that worked in The Apprentice. The way this man operates, okay, and I'm just being real with you, is he does what he wants, irrespective of the script, and I mean that figuratively and literally, okay? And then they have to reverse engineer everything. They used to run The Apprentice. They'd put the cameras on. They'd be like, all right, this is who you're firing. He'd go fire somebody else, and they'd be like, oh, now we got to change the travel. Now we got to go book a new, you know what I mean? So this is how the man governed.
Yeah.
This is how he will govern. These are my concerns. And if you don't believe me, listen to the words out of his new chief of staff who said she doesn't want the clown car having access to the White House. If the people around him are using that terminology, then I don't know what to tell you.
Oh
So-
no, I believe you. He's something else. The way that he talks and the way that he does
Yeah.
things, I'm just like, oh my god! Like he got banned. Like the first year that he was president, he literally got banned off of Twitter because he wouldn't stop putting things out there for no reason. Like he's honestly, I feel like he's a child almost.
Well, he is a child, but he's a celebrity.
So bad.
And here's the problem I have is I read these comments now that people are like, well, we need to find our version, right? We need the Gavin Newsom's because he's a little crazy, or maybe The Rock. And I'm like, no, learn from your mistakes. This is where, as much as I want a disruptor, this is where you want professionals in the room. I'm not going to a dentist for a physical. You understand? I go to a specialist for special needs. You know what I mean? You go. I'm not going to a weatherman to put out a fire. It's just like I don't understand this. So I'm not going to a game show host for policy. The best thing that Kamala could have run on, and it still wouldn't have won the election for her, was her track record as a career politician. Because as much as people don't like them, it shows stability. Sometimes you just want an adult or a pro at the wheel.
Oh yeah, and clearly Mr. Trump there, he's not.
No, and there's
Not
some real
at all.
look, and then a lot of people are going to tune out and be like, now this is unproductive. Well, here's the thing. Save this for later. And in 6, 7, 8 months, when the you-know-what starts to hit the fan, just remember a lot of us knew, and hopefully some of us, at least myself, will not vilify you when you say, oh my gosh, what have we done? We got to do something different. Let's meet these folks back in the middle. That's all I'm asking everybody to do. Meet folks back in the middle,
for sure.
so that at the midterms, you know, we can do whatever we got to do. We can get it done. That's all. Listen, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to keep moving.
Call from.
The calls are coming in. Oh my gosh, I gotta get a better phone system. I like the phone system that I used to use, but candidly, it can get pricey. So 330, you're on the air.
My name's Lindsay.
What's your name?
See?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Just kind of going on the politics, but also kind of back to Disney. We kind of complaining about what they're doing with Rivers of America, but with all the tariffs, would that even keep going? Like if labor and goods all go up?
Oh, now that's a good question. Way to bring it all back together. I like that. So the question for those that are watching on TikTok, you can hear the callers on YouTube, is how would the tariffs potentially affect something like construction on expansion? Of course, talking about Rivers of America. My actual question is actually, will the what was it? The I can't think of the right term now. Forgive me. Not the inspectors, but there was the government, the local Florida government, basically pushed back on the permits. So I actually wonder where they are in that process. And a lot of that's public information. I don't know to what extent those tariffs are actually going to happen, because I think that it's really, really dangerous and it'll be really, really bad politically to do anything with those. But I do wonder if they've had any progress with the permitting process, because they got a lot of pushback on touching that land behind the Magic Kingdom. So that would be my question. You folks, this information's public too. I encourage and empower you to go find this data. It's all out there. The permits are out there. Reedy Creeks, or whatever they're called these days, their information's out there. You can pick up the phone and call people. You can call your local government. You can call the governor's office. I mean, you could put the pressure on the Florida government to put the pressure on Disney to stop this Rivers of America project. Because let me tell you something. I'm not like a DeSantis guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he does not like Disney. But he was married at the Grand Floridian. So I think in his heart of hearts, there's a Disney purist there that we can actually leverage, as much as I'm not a fan of the little guy, you know. I hope that answers your question. I just don't know. I don't think we're going to have real tariffs. I think that that's like shooting yourself in the foot. Why would you do that?
Between that and like if they go after come from other countries like they want to, the construction workers, like it's going to affect level.
Yeah, say goodbye to your Christmas bonuses. You know?
And I have a daughter, so like I'm not looking forward to what world she could be growing up in. I'm hoping it's like last time where he didn't get much done.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. You know, unfortunately, the problem with hoping that nothing gets done is then it's just another 4 more years of nothing getting done for the working class. And this is where my real concern lay, is I really wish we could get...
And the working class, so...
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying, like, I wish we could just get to a point of actually getting things done to help the working class instead of playing politics. Because, you know, all we do, I shouldn't say we, all they do is vilify each other and vilify the supporters. And again, everybody stays in their corners and nobody wants to find their way to the middle to get things done. And really, at the end of the day, none of these people in Congress want to get anything done. We all know that.
But I'm in a district always to get at like younger people. We don't really have career politicians as much in our district.
That's good. Does it help?
It seems to. The one that we just had, she did get reelected. She did a lot with Democrat, but she did a lot with the local police. Got a lot of grant funding for them, like my area, and she does a lot for her area. So
what area?
More accountable. In Summit County area in Ohio.
Oh, you're in Ohio. Okay. Yeah. See, it's interesting to me because, you know, if you really understand how people vote, then you understand that people generally will vote in either direction. I really believe that. Having grown up in Bucks County, I saw it. So, you know, if you speak to working class voters, All right. And it goes back to what the guy said earlier about status quo. If you speak to working class voters and tell them that you understand
It used to be a
status,
swing state.
say it again.
It used to be a swing state, so I remember when all the commercials were pointed at us during some of the elections.
But this is what we do. We have short-term memory in this country. So every 2 years, the pendulum swings in the other direction, and nothing gets done. And that's the con of the two-party system. That's been my gripe since I was a kid, is that the two-party system is designed to keep us divided. And we're living it. And we're living it in a way that is worse than I've ever seen. And that is why, for me, as somebody that has just a minor platform, I can't just sit by and be like, let's go ride rides. And I did escapism. I did it when I needed it for me. Now I feel like we need clarity. And we need discourse, and we need to converse. We need to meet each other in the middle. I keep saying it because how do the Democrats not get it? You lost because you played the game bad. And people just want to know that they're going to make it to tomorrow.
The biggest thing the next couple years is just going to be your community and keeping everybody safe and get through it.
Well, here's what I want to do, okay, for the next few years. And I'm not saying that we're not going to build Legos and go into the park and do gaming, and I want to do all that stuff. I want to hang out with people. But I really want to start focusing on these conversations and the community building and reaching out and helping communities the best that we can as a group together. Let's grow this group, okay? Let's make this a centrist movement where everybody's welcome, and let's help people at the local level. If there's something that I can do to put the spotlight, again, I'm not sitting here and acting like I got 10 million followers, at least not yet. But if I can do anything with my platform to put the spotlight on a problem in your community, let me know how I can help. Because I would like to take this platform that I've been fortunate enough to build with your support, okay, and move it into the direction of something much, much bigger and has a much larger purpose. I love Disney. Don't get me wrong. People are like, where have you been? Well, where have I been? I've been trying to figure it all out. You know?
Using Disney will be a good way, because that's like something that connects all of us and being like, here's how this is affected by government. You don't think it is, but everything we do is affected by government.
Correct. Well, but most people don't research beyond the headline. You know, most people don't even read the art. You know how many times in my life, and I'm sure we all have this, where someone has sent me an article and said, check this out, and I'm like, did you read the story? Because that's not what actually is happening. They're like, no, I just read the headline. Yeah, okay.
In political science, so I've read plenty of
well, you know.
Yeah.
How old are you, may I ask?
I'm 31.
You're 31. Okay, so you're younger than me. You're like a decade plus younger than me. So you weren't there for the era of writing our papers on paper in school.
Like I learned cursive. I was probably at the very end.
You were at the very that transition of like, oh, write your paper. My dad used to say, write the paper first and then transcribe it into the computer. Get your ideas organized.
I had to do.
And then enter it into, like, in other words, treat the computer like a word processor. You know how many kids don't even know what a word processing machine is now? So it was just sort of like, it was a slower culture. There was more thought and consideration put into things. Now everything is the spread of information too fast. You know?
So many places to get your research that aren't even, that you shouldn't be getting your research from. Before we had like specific places we went.
Yeah.
Vetted that were middle.
Do kids even do bibliographies anymore? Do people care?
I think they have to just because of, I think because of AI, they still have to just to make sure they wrote it themselves. AI. They did the research.
Let me tell you something.
But how much they actually use it.
I got into an argument with ChatGPT a few weeks ago. If you've ever used this ChatGPT. So I entered into ChatGPT.
I'm not a big fan of AI.
No, I'm not either. But you got to listen. I'm not a big fan of a lot of things, but I soak them up because that's how you learn, right? So I get into this ChatGPT and I said, hey, who should be the next CEO of Disney? And it gave me some internal candidates. And I said, that's great. Now let's talk about external candidates. And it gave me like 3 or 4. And one of them was a former Google executive by the name of Susan. I can't say her last name, so I'm not going to butcher it. Begins with a W. She passed away months ago. So I say to ChatGPT, I said, you just recommended a dead candidate. And ChatGPT goes, she's not dead. She retired. She's currently doing X, Y, and Z. Now I'm arguing with artificial intelligence. And I said, no, she's dead.
It can't be smarter than us. We have to teach it.
I feel like I'm Tom Cruise in the first Mission Impossible. I'm like, they're dead. They're all dead. Okay? And nobody's going to get that reference. But so I'm like, no, she's dead. So ChatGPT is like, well, let me look a little bit further. And it's like, oh, upon further research. I'm like, so to your point, it's only as good as what you put in the machine. So ChatGPT gave me bad info. What a shock.
Scary as I'm on Political Life sometimes, and people will come up and argue like, well, I typed it into GPT and they said it was right. It's like, no. It's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. But this goes...
we have to work on.
It's the spread of misinformation. But the other part of that, again, is you can't vilify people for not understanding. You know, people are now just learning about this tariff thing. They didn't take the time on the front end.
Those are the people it's going to affect the most, unfortunately.
But it boggles my mind that people didn't know that tariffs are taxes. Like, I have the visual memory.
I work in the hospitality industry, so I'm...
But, like, I remember seeing it in a textbook in, like, the 5th grade.
I remember learning about it. Fortunately, I just knew what it was because what's a tariff? And I looked it up myself.
I remember learning about global warming when it was in the textbooks before it became a political issue. That's the problem. These things used to be discussed. Now everything is relegated to a talking point. And that's a real problem. That is a real problem. Look, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to keep moving on here. If you want to give us a call, I'm juggling so much. 407-504-1889. 1889. One of the other things I saw was now the Democrats are trying to force Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor off the court. And again, Bernie Sanders said, nope, I don't agree with that. When are they going to stop trying to run everything like a puppet show and let things play out? Nancy Pelosi's got to go. Chuck Schumer's got to go. All right? We need centrists. That's all I'm saying. We need centrists. I know people don't want to talk about politics forever. I'm going to move on right now a little bit, kind of, sort of. If you didn't listen to yesterday's podcast, at the very end of it, I talked about Justine Bateman. Justine Bateman played Mallory on Family Ties, and she's now all over Twitter trolling people. Okay? First of all, I've done business with this woman. She's a lunatic. But I only bring her up to point to the fact that this is exactly what we don't need to be doing. So now, because she's so desperate for attention, she is pandering to anyone and everyone who will listen and trying to eviscerate people using filmmaker critiques on social media because they're all butthurt about the election outcome. And she's on there being snarky and she's not really being witty, okay? But she's on there, you know, trying to do her thing. It's exactly what we don't need. But she's so desperate for attention, and I've worked with this woman. She's a lunatic. She could never get anything going in the industry. So now what she's doing is she's pandering to people, okay? And they're buying it hook, line, and sinker, and she's getting a little bit of notoriety for herself. But folks, she's a lunatic. She's a lunatic. She's a lunatic. We should call her. 407-504-1889. You know, if you really like what we're doing here, I like the idea of doing these morning radio shows. You know, I'd like to do them in a longer format. I don't know if we do them every day, Monday through Friday. I don't know how many times to do them. All I know is I like the format. I like talking to you. I like taking the phone calls. So if you want to show your support, if we hit this gift goal on TikTok, it's going to let me know that the support is there to come back and do it again. There's theme parks, there's Legos, there's gaming, but it's important to me to start having these conversations. Somebody's got to do it, folks. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to care. Somebody's got to care to have the conversation, to find a way to pull people into the center. Somebody's got to take the lead and say, hey, you know what? Just because you don't agree with me doesn't mean that we can't discuss it, okay? And it doesn't mean that we have to be feuds, to use a phrase that was once used amongst a former collaborator. Feuds, that's a weird word. What are we, fencing each other? Feuds. So needless to say, Justine Bateman is just a whack job, and don't fall for her attention-seeking, trolling self. Let's get back to Rivers of America. D23 Brazil showed the simulation for Rivers of America. Now, look, it is a dirt road simulator. It's not going to be a dirt track, folks. There's not going to be dirt kicking up, okay, in and around the Haunted Mansion, okay? It's not, even though it's going to look like dirt, I assure you it's not going to be dirt kicking up. They're not that out of touch, I hope. However, if you go look on TikTok or Twitter or wherever, I posted the actual ride system. The ride system came out about 6 or 7 years ago. Most of these ride systems are stock, so it's not like earth-shattering that it's a stock ride system. But if you go take a look at the ride system, it is a very lo-fi, trackless, dune buggy style system that they're going to put right where Rivers of America is, if this actually happens, okay? Go check it out, because at this point, construction's going to start in the new year, and if this is what we're getting and you're okay with it, so be it. A lot of you will still show up. I'm ready to start fighting the fight. I'm ready to stage a petition, or stage a protest rather, not a petition. Let's go to the phones. But I'm really ready to get loud, because that is not plussing the park. 256, you're on the air. That is not plussing the park.
Hey, so I'm just curious, 'cause you've been talking about politics and everything. What are your thoughts about Trump's announcement for the 2026 celebration?
I love that, actually. That kind of gave me a World's Fair kind of energy.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And, that's one thing I was talking to a buddy about the other day was, like, how freaking cool would it be if Walt was still around? Or even the Imagineering that we had 10 years ago.
Oh, my God.
And
your mouth to God's ears.
I mean, now it's like, they'll put another movie in there or something, be ridiculous. But if we had the real creative Imagineering, I want to know how we can make suggestions for this celebration so that everybody can just spam Joe Rohde's name into it.
Just do it on Twitter, man. Elon's right there. I mean, Elon's taking cabinet recommendations on Twitter at this point. I thought that was actually a really cool announcement. We'll see if it actually happens, because, our government likes to spend money in the worst ways possible. So I think it's fantastic. I actually wish we still did World's Fairs.
Right. And this is something that he's been talking about for several years now.
Yeah.
That, is just not, it's not important to people. So it's not going to get out there. Right. But, or not important to the mouth that be, if you will.
Did you know, funny enough, I was reading up on the casinos, because I grew up in Philly, so I went to the Trump casinos growing up. One of his casinos was actually called Trump's World's Fair at one point.
Really?
Uh-huh. I think till about 1999, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a fantastic idea. I love this country. I mean, even when I don't like this country, I still love this country. My grandfather, fought in the war and was a disabled vet, and I saw firsthand, what he sacrificed for this country. I love this country. I don't like our government. But I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, you do got to give Trump credit, though, on bringing in probably one of the most bipartisan teams that we've seen.
Well, has he?
At least in my lifetime.
You talking about last time?
I said at least in my lifetime.
No, but are you talking about last time? Because I haven't seen any bipartisan announcements yet, but I don't know. Maybe I just missed them.
I mean, RFK's pretty, that's pretty big when Tulsi Gabbard. Elon has been, he's a lifelong Democrat. He's been very open about that.
But you're hitting on a larger point there. I mean, how often in our nation's history do the parties as well as the voters swing back and forth? You know, the ideology of the Republican Party was much more aligned with the Democrat Party at one point, and vice versa. So it's not lost and it's not foreign that folks would go from one party to the other. I think most people are wired that way. And it speaks volumes to the Democrats if they're losing all these people. I don't think RFK is a big loss. I'm sorry, okay? I think RFK is a bit of a nut job, all right? I love the idea of us eating better, eating healthier, but I think he's a nut job, okay? Sorry.
Well,
I love Tulsi. I do. I think Tulsi's awesome. I don't necessarily know much about her policy. I just think she's like a warrior. She just gives off like a warrior energy. So props to her. I'm not saying I agree with her policies. I don't even really know her policies. I'm just from a personality perspective.
right.
But we'll see. I think at the end of the day, you know, look, I mean, I've listened to more Joe Rogan, which is not much, in the last 2 weeks than I've ever listened to. I don't listen to Joe Rogan. Again, I like the guy's personality. I always have. I thought he was a really funny stand-up comic. Shockingly more funny than most people realized. But he was a Bernie supporter.
That's another whack job.
But he was a Bernie supporter. What'd you say?
I love Rogan. I love his show and everything, but he's a whack job. He's out there.
Well, yeah, no, he's totally out there. And that's just it, right? But listen to this conversation you and I are having right now. I mean, we're not supposed to agree and disagree. Like Rogan's a complete whack job. But this is a stand-up comic, you know? So, look, he was a Bernie bro, all right? So you got to realize if you look at politics as a circle, that the extreme left and the extreme right meet together at the bottom of the circle. And if you truly understand that, then you understand that there's really no differences. And that is why, using the playbook they used, they were able to bring in so many people. I really wouldn't call it diverse, even though it is diverse, because most of these people just voted against their own self-interest, unfortunately. And that will come to light. Now, again, I'm not saying voting in the other direction would have done anything other than preserve status quo. Most people don't think that's enough, and that's fair.
Obama, and whatever you believe, about Obama and all, he really screwed Harris on this, because he's out there telling black men, you should be ashamed for not voting for a black woman.
Well, first of all, this is the problem with identity politics. You should never tell anybody because you look a certain way, or your cultural buildup or makeup is a certain way, that you should be aligned a certain way. We shouldn't be telling people anything like that. I think the real botched effort started with Biden, and I like Biden. I've met Joe Biden. I've seen him as a human being, and I could share those stories. But I personally like the man. Okay, so I still think that if you ran on being on a transitional candidate, then you should have bowed out and let the Dems have a primary. But as soon as you don't have a primary, it doesn't matter. You can't tell people we need to save democracy by undercutting democracy. You just can't do it. You just can't do it.
Right.
It just doesn't add up. And you're insulting people's intelligence to ask them to disregard that.
Yeah.
So,
it's a complete cluster, but
it's House of Cards,
going
man.
back to what you said, with the status and everything, it's been driving me crazy how everybody's kind of. I was watching late. I don't know if you ever get on TikTok late at night, but scrolling through lives late at night, you really learn a lot about people because they don't think people are watching, right? And they'll just have these 10 people up there with them, and they'll just be talking. And the amount of just literally racism, saying you can't trust an envelope, right? You can't trust anybody the color of an envelope. It's what in the world? What is going on in our country that because you're not happy with who got elected, that you want to wipe out a whole race?
Well, and this is what happens on both sides. This is what happens on both sides, right? And this is why everybody is much more aligned than they realize, because everybody vilifies the opposition, and everybody throws their ideologies out the window when they're vilifying somebody. Okay? yeah, it's not okay to do it to me, but I can do it to you because you don't agree with me. You know? So it's hypocrisy. But that's how they got elected just now. There's a video going around from like 10, 15 years ago of Bernie Sanders, and again, I'm not a Bernie guy, okay? But I can keep my eyes open, talking about how Republicans try to win elections, okay? And generally speaking, they keep their playbook to themselves, and then they use issues to divide, okay? The Democrats use identity, okay? But the Republicans use fear. None of them are using working class issues, all right? So now you have a bunch of people that are voting, like I said before, against their own self-interests, because the one issue that other caller was talking about, the othering, that one issue is all they're thinking about. But that doesn't make them all bigots. It just means that their issue was what they voted on, not your issue. It doesn't make everybody a bigot. There are some. But let me tell you something. There are bigots in all walks of life.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. That goes all over the place.
I'm just tired of it, man. Why? Like, how old are we? Are we this immature that because you look different than me, or you sound different than me, or you believe something different than me, or you were raised differently, that I'm supposed to fear you? I'm supposed to fear you because your skin is darker or lighter? I'm supposed to fear you because you pray to a different God? I'm supposed to fear you because you have an accent? I don't understand. I don't understand why adults are so stungats.
Right. And going back to something you said earlier, you talking about how, you used to not talk about who you voted for. And I think that's a real problem that we have now. And I blame social media for some of it, right? But you look back in your life and Thanksgiving, Christmas, there was always political arguments. But at the family dinner and all, everybody always argued about politics at some point, somehow, some way. But you never talked about who you voted for. And I remember asking my grandparents when I was younger, trying to learn about politics and all, trying to, what am I supposed to do when I get older? All this, right? And I'd ask them, who'd you vote for? Well, I ought to smack you across this room. You don't ask somebody who they voted for.
Right.
That's not something you talk about.
Right.
And I think that's a huge divide. Obviously politics is a huge divide that we have now. Like, why can we not just go back to those simpler times to where we kept our vote to ourselves? It was, that's a sacred thing.
Sure.
Or it used to be, right? Like, that used to be one of your most sacred rights as a U.S. citizen. Keep that to yourself, and let's all freaking get along.
Or at least honor and respect your neighbor enough. I don't have to agree, and you don't have to convince me to agree.
Right. Exactly. You talk about your beliefs. Talk about your thoughts on things. Hopefully you can educate somebody else, and them educate you as well.
But I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I said this like 10 times already. Okay, so I grew up where the action was, and I remember going into the booth when I was a kid, and my mom would vote, and this is back when it was the little metal levers, and she would vote down the line. She'd go down the line.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. And I used to ask her as a kid, why are you going down the line? And she goes, well, I'm voting for my party. I'm going down the line. I go, I don't get that. Like, I didn't understand it as a child.
That's something I can say with pride, and I always have. I've never voted straight party.
That's why I never registered for a party. I've always been an independent. I think if you Google me, it says I'm a Republican. I don't know why. I've held press conferences with Governor Schwarzenegger back in the day. I was the independent voter chair for L.A., which really means nothing. It just sounds good. But I have no Republican track record. I will vote for a Republican. I have no issue with that. But I just remember questioning that as a child. And I don't think most people in Bucks County, Pennsylvania vote down the line. And I think you saw that this election.
Right.
But I remember looking at my mom going, why are you doing that? And by the way, the way she used to vote then and the way she votes now is very different, because as we grow and we evolve, I'm not going to say as we learn necessarily, because not everybody learns, okay, but as we grow and evolve, our perspectives change.
Mm-hmm. I've already changed.
I understand more now at this age. I understand more now why people just voted for the Republicans than I understood why I was voting for a Democrat when I was working on the Barack Obama campaign. Because back then I was just voting for change. I understand more now what just happened after just thinking about it for the last week than I'll ever understand of how I voted as a kid. And I used to vote differently. I used to vote emotionally. Now it's critical. And I think I think we need to take the emotion out of it. And I think part of what you just said is would be massive. I mean, keeping the ballot to yourself, keeping your decision to yourself would take so much emotion out of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I raised up a stink at our polling location this year because we had an issue here where our ballots were misprinted. Okay, and it had nothing to do with the presidential election or anything like that. It was a local amendment that were not printed on the ballot at all. And they said they were going to give you a choice. You could vote, the paper ballot like you always do and not vote on the amendments, or you can use the handicap machine that, it has a screen on there. You push all your, it's a computer thing and it prints out a ballot and then you feed that to the counter. And which some of these local amendments, they meant something to me. So I wanted to make sure that I voted on them. But it became weird because then all of a sudden we didn't have a choice. We were just told we were voting on the machine. And it's like, well, what happened to the choice? Like, going into the polling places, like I said earlier, it's one of our sacred rights, right? Like, we should be able to go in there, present our ID, sign, get our ballot, vote, put it in the machine, get our sticker, and leave. Know we've done, our best as an American citizen to help this country move forward, right? You shouldn't go in there being concerned, confused. You shouldn't be, like, as a new voter maybe, but, as somebody who's voted in multiple elections now, I should not be looking around like, where the hell am I right now?
What county are you in? Or what state are you in?
It's in Alabama.
You're in Alabama, okay.
Yeah. And it was this big issue though. And but then you start paying more attention. The handicap machine, zero privacy whatsoever. I was 30 people back and could see what the person was voting for. It's like, this is a problem. Like, why can we not just do things right?
Well, I don't understand.
Go back to the old ways. We keep changing things.
First of all, we need to abolish the Electoral College. I've been saying that since I was a kid, okay? We need to abolish the Electoral College, and we live in the information age of technology. Why can we not vote from the privacy of our own homes electronically and secure, and that would ensure that everybody has a one-to-one vote? You could tie it to their ID. You could have a secure double login process, use their social security number, whatever you want to do. Problem solved. If we can vote for American Idol from home, why can't we vote for elections from home? You would watch voter turnout skyrocket. Most people in this country don't vote.
But I think then you're going to have your older generation being like, I can't figure this out.
You know what?
It's like, okay, Grandma, let me help you. No, you're not helping me, son.
Help them out. You know what? I got grandmas that have been watching me for 3.5 years that have had their sons come over and show them how to gift on TikTok. Okay? If you really want to learn something, you'll learn it. I remember working in the TV industry, and we were still using Avids, and I was meeting with the head of production, the head of post-production at NBC Universal Television, the head of the whole studio's post-production department. He said, Royce, help me put budgets together. This is the days of Final Cut Pro, which Apple abandoned. And I put together all these budgets for him. And he goes, these are fantastic. We could save so much money. But now we just have to wait for the Avid editors to die. I said, what? He goes, we can't teach these people anything. At a certain
Right.
point in time, you just have to accept that generational fall off. They weren't going to force those systems on the old generation of editors. They were going to wait till more people fell off to make that change. At some point, we
Right.
just have to make that change, and unfortunately, there will be a fall off, but we'll pick it up on the front end. So if we lose some older fucking, excuse my language, oh my gosh, if we lose some older voters, okay, to bring in the younger
That made you
voters
too comfortable.
and to fix the problem, I'm for it. What'd you say?
I said, I done made you too comfortable in this conversation.
Yeah, you did, man, because I love this stuff. I never curse on the live. But it's just like you got to run the cost benefit analysis. I mean, at some point we got to make a change. You got to disrupt the system.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you get back to it. I appreciate it.
Hey, good to talk to you, buddy.
You too.
I don't even know that gentleman's name. I forget, let alone his username on TikTok. But yeah, got a little too comfortable there. 407-504-1889. Help us hit that gift goal. If we knock out that gift goal on TikTok, I'll know that I should do this again. If we knock out this goal on TikTok, then I'll know we should do this again. I was very nervous about doing this because it's a departure from what we normally do, but this is something I've done my entire life. I've done radio. Okay, I had a live radio show before podcasting was a term. I have produced radio shows and podcasts for others. And I love the format. I love actually talking to people. So if you want to talk to me, 407-504-1889. I got lots of stuff on my list to discuss, but I love talking to y'all, whether you want to talk politics, you want to talk Disney. I want to get back to Rivers of America because Rivers of America, unlike Dino Land, Rivers of America is one of these things that I actually think is worth getting really disruptive and loud over. Them changing dinosaur to Indiana Jones, I support. I might not like everything they're going to do, but I support it. But taking out the Rivers of America is ripping out the heart and soul of Disney World. And that is literally what it was described as, the heart and soul. Go look at the promotional material. And Walt has videos of him talking about Liberty Square in Disneyland and talking about the Florida Project and how valuable it is. And it's Americana. And I just, I think, well, I know that if people can be loud enough to have Splash Mountain be taken away, then we can be loud enough to preserve the Rivers of America. But the folks that I have talked to privately, the social media people that I've talked to that have accounts, they won't stage a protest. They won't do what I'll do because they are afraid of getting banned from the park. I don't give a flying fish. Okay, I will literally stage a protest on Tom Sawyer Island if people will back me up. I'll do it. I'll pick up the phone. I'll call Bob Iger's office and be like, Bob, what's the matter? I'll do it. I don't care. But if I'm going to be out there by myself, I'm not going to hang myself out to dry by myself. But this is something that's actually worth fighting for. This, for me, and Carousel of Progress. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to get rid of the Muppets because they have not announced where the Monsters Inc. land is going. Okay, and I take umbrage with getting rid of Jim Henson's legacy because that attraction is Jim Henson's legacy. All right, but right now I think you got to focus on Rivers of America. You can't be too fragmented. But I think there's a fight to be had. You all need to start emailing Bob Iger. His email is public. I could tell you his email right now, but then I'll get in trouble. All right. But his email's public. Google it. You need to pick up the phone. You need to start calling guest relations, and you need to tell them that you're going to cancel your annual passes. You can't keep going and giving them money and expecting them to do anything differently. Every time that we give them more money, we tell them that raising the prices and taking away things, okay, and minusing the park is okay with us, and it's not. So if you really care about the future of the Magic Kingdom, okay, if you really think that gutting the Rivers of America is a major blow to the brand, and I firmly believe it is, okay, then you got to get loud because the new year's upon us, and before you know it, they're going to drain that thing, and it's going to be game over. Now, my solution is simple. Truncate the river, okay? I don't even care if the steamship doesn't move anymore and it just sits there stationary on the dock and make it a friggin' DVC lounge. You're welcome. But maintain the aesthetic on the front. Now, somebody out there, do me a favor and find out what's going on with the permits, please, because they got pushback on the permits for Rivers of America, and they were told that they needed to provide a lot more backup. I have no idea what that is, where that process is in terms of receiving that data. My understanding from what I read is it will take them months to respond to that. Somebody out there, please help me out and go look at what's going on with the Rivers of America permitting, because that might give you all the answers you need, okay? 407-504-1889. I'd love to talk to you. You can ask me whatever you want. I'll talk about anything. Talk about anything. We've talked about the Tyson-Paul fight. I still maintain Mike Tyson's going to knock his head off, at least in the first round or two, okay? We'll see. We've talked about Wicked. We've talked about Justine Bateman. We've talked about the election. We've talked about Rivers of America. I talked about the Christmas party. I had a ticket. I opted not to go. The Christmas party is now almost $200, and they haven't done anything to change it. They haven't done anything. Thank you all. I see everything lighting up over on TikTok. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal. That helps a lot. This is the problem I'm having with Disney right now. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot to complain about these days, okay? But you know, we keep giving them this money. So I just renewed my annual pass because, you know, I'm supposed to be in the parks and doing my thing. But I got to tell you, if I wasn't a quote-unquote Disney streamer or whatever I'm supposed to be, I wouldn't have renewed it because we got to stop giving them the money. We got to send the message. I wish there was enough of y'all out there where we could organize a day of protest where nobody showed up. If we could show them one day where nobody goes to the Magic Kingdom. If you could show them one day where you could zero out their revenue, you show them one day where you could have a massive impact on the bottom line, you could get your way. The Walt Disney Company is a fear-based company. They capitulate to the public because they are afraid of the public. They are afraid of being pantsed and spanked in public. Okay, and that is how you get your way with the Walt Disney Company. They do not like to be embarrassed. The Walt Disney Company thinks that there's nobody that does it better than them. That used to be the truth. These days, it's not so much the case. Rivers of America is going away in the new year unless you do something about it. I'm asking you, if you all get out there and start, I will see it. I will meet you right there. I will meet you right there, but I'm not going to do it on my own. I have the desire. I have the cojones to not leave Tom Sawyer Island. I will pick up the phone and call the CEO. I've done these. I will do these things. I have no problem fighting the fight. Where are you? Where are you in the fight? 407-504-1889. I don't know if I'm going to podcast the audio out to this or not. I want some feedback on that. Shoot me messages. I got a lot of great feedback on the podcast yesterday. I like the idea of doing these. Like I said, if we hit this gift goal, I'm going to know that I should do this again. So help me out by hitting that gift goal on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. You can hear the callers over on YouTube. I have it wired that way. But I really want to start doing more of this. This is where I would like to take things. It doesn't mean that we can't do all the other things we've done over the last 3.5 years. But if you're like me and you really care about things, then I think now is the time. That's how I feel. I know I'm not going to get 500, 600, 700 people, okay? At the moment, I know I'm not going to get that. But I remember the days of walking to my car with 50 people watching me walk to my car. And the next thing you know, I have 300 people watching. So I know you got to start from somewhere. And I'm not afraid to disrupt what I've built. Thank you all so much. And I looked over and I see a turkey on my head. So that's oddly not reassuring, but also reassuring at the same time, if you know what I mean. And I have the volume up so you can hear that being hit. Look at you all go. But here we are. It's important to me that if we're going to keep doing this, and if you want to keep watching, and you want to keep joining me in whatever I do that I got to give the all of me. I got to give the all of me. When I started doing the live streams in the park, I didn't even vocalize my opinion. Here we are. If you don't like it, just unfollow. You'll be missed. But I just got to give you 100% of who I am. I can't hold back anymore. I'm not going to. I am a firm believer in using what we've got here for good. It's been good to me. It helped me rebuild post-pandemic. But I think it's time to focus on community. I love what we did with Keena in North Carolina. I love what we did to help Keena in North Carolina, and we're going to do more of that after the holidays. I love that stuff. And if there's anybody out there, if there's a local issue that we could bring to light in the public, if there's something going on in your community that we can start to focus on, that we can highlight on, I just want to be in a position with you to focus on community for the better, not to be in a position of just escapism 24/7 and pretending like there aren't real problems to solve. Let's go to the phones. I love going to the phones. 786, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Royce, it's Danny.
Danny, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I love your clear connection.
That's because I'm in Florida. We have great connections there.
I knew the answer. It's a local call. You didn't even have... Anyway, go ahead.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Really happy to see you back in this format. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. You know, I don't know. I have zero self-confidence with any of this stuff anymore. I don't know why. It's weird. In my 20s, I would have had all the confidence in the world.
No, you're doing a great job. I don't think it's much different than what you were doing every day by going live on TikTok. I think it's kind of the same.
Yeah, maybe. I overthink everything. I think for me, my struggle is this isn't what people expect. Part of the reason I turn the comments off is because I want to focus on doing radio. The other part is it's just going to be, where have you been? When are you going to go to the park? And it's like, well, how can I do anything else if that's all I'm faced with, you know?
I know. I can tell it's hard to always get bombarded with the same repetitive questions about that. But I think the more consistent you are with it, I think people will really like it. I mean, anyone that was tuning into your live was tuning in my opinion, because of you and the way that you were, your personality. I think because anybody could watch any live out there if they just wanted to see, you know, a visual of the park, but you gave something extra. So I'm happy to just listen to you and whatever you're doing. And this morning has been really interesting. I had a morning off, my radiator busted, and I said, let me go back on TikTok, and I saw that you were live, and I'm like, wow, a radio show. Let me tune into this. So it's been very interesting.
Well, that's so sweet. And if you can't hear Danny, the caller audio is on YouTube. You know, there's only so many things I can do at once. Let me respond to that, and then I want to hear your thoughts. So, you know, I first of all, I love this format because I don't hear your voice. I see what you write. So I love being able to hear your voice and actually have a conversation. But the notion that people are here for me is lost on me. I started this as escapism. I barely spoke. If you go to tvremix.com, you can watch old lives. It's free. Yes, there's a button to hit to show your support. And that's going to be my new focus as opposed to the subbing, just because of the revenue build. But if you go back, Danny, to those old streams, I barely spoke because I didn't think that that's what people were there for. So to have come this far, to hear it from folks like you have been watching me and supporting me, doing other things, that's what's going to get me to keep going. I'm not saying I'm not going back into the park. I just personally have a really hard time right now pretending like all these things aren't weighing on my mind. The Disney stuff, the politics, all of it. So anyway, I digress. What is on your mind, Danny?
Well, I've been a Disney fan for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. I've been local my whole life. I was born here in Florida. So going to the Florida parks was something that we did Not frequently when I was a child, but more so in my teen years. And once I had my own job and my own income, I was able to kind of indulge in my overall love for Disney and go to the parks frequently. So as someone that's been going to the park since the early 80s and seen in Disney World, seen the evolution and not in a good way, seen the changes, and I embrace most changes, but talking about Rivers of America, ever since the announcement came out, I think for someone who has been going to the Florida park and understands that particular area of Magic Kingdom and how important it is to not just to Walt and his vision and what it meant to him, but for all of us that grew up, I can't imagine my children who are already teenagers imparting the nostalgia that I imparted on them in that particular area. There's nothing left once you take that out. And I fear that all of Liberty Square will go down.
Correct.
Every little part of it will if you take the shooting arcade out and you make it into a lounge, which I thought was ridiculous, that the part that's right next to it.
Yeah, it was supposed to be gem mining. Originally, they were going to install gem mining there, okay, which would have turned it into a cost center at least. But go on.
So now you're taking out this huge chunk of Rivers of America that when you walk through there to go to pretty much any part of Frontierland past Liberty Square. It's such a beautiful area. I can't speak for other people, but I always went to Tom Sawyer Island growing up. And because I have two boys, I would take them there and we would spend at least an hour to an hour and a half. They would just go nuts there, leave my husband and I by ourselves. We'd have a little picnic. It was a place of respite in this huge park that felt like I was being transported someplace else. I'm from Miami, so I don't get that woodsy outdoor feeling in this urban center that I live in.
Well,
so going there
is
my escape.
I'm so sorry. I'm just kidding. I've been to Miami, so I can say that.
I mean, I feel like every little nugget that makes particularly Magic Kingdom kind of a universal place for anybody, whether you live on the West Coast or on the East Coast. All those little nuggets that make us all as Disney fans and fans of the park have something in common are being chipped away. So what I enjoyed as a child and what my kids enjoyed as children, there will be nothing left for them to say, oh, we used to do this here when we used to come to the park. That generational nostalgia will be erased.
And that's what Disney World trades on. Unlike Disneyland, Disney World trades on generational nostalgia. People want to do exactly what you just stated, which is, I want to take my kids so that they can bring their kids and show them what I experienced. It is a desire to do that. That is what people save up to do.
Now more so, because of the expense associated. I see a lot of discussion online in anywhere, whether it be on Facebook, especially Facebook groups, which are terrible, and I don't know why I belong to them, but a lot of discussion about how the expense of going to Disney. Now, like, again, I'm local, so I can just hop in my car for a 3-hour drive and I can be at the park. So some of the expenses are offset because I'm local. But just imagining a family that has to save years to be able to take a week-long vacation with a couple of kids, and then everything that we used to enjoy, which was free, or part of your ticket, like a fast pass. And now you're being nickel and dimed for every little thing.
But let's just back up to Liberty Square for a second, because you said something that's so important, and I don't think people realize that. The dismantling of Rivers of America is the beginning of the dismantling of Liberty Square. Once they take out Rivers, they will take out Hall of Presidents, and that entire area will be dismantled. The only thing left in the park that will represent yesterday will be a slice of Frontierland, which has lost its theming, and Main Street, which is about 5 to 7 years away from being called Mickey Mouse Avenue. Okay? So, like, this is where we're at. This is where we are. And if you take that out, now I guarantee you, if you take that out, you are going to hurt park attendants. You are not going to help park attendants. When you gut that, people are not going to like it. And then on top of that, Danny, and I don't know if you heard me say this earlier, it is a trackless ride. Trackless rides break down all the time. Now, let's go to peak summer with Florida thunderstorms. How many attractions go 101 all day long during Florida thunderstorms in the summer? So now you're going to have another attraction that is going to be down more times than not because of the nature of the attraction combined with the fact that it's an outdoor attraction. At least you have the gorgeous aesthetic of the river during a thunderstorm. You know, people don't understand the value of aesthetic and theming. And they go, oh, Walt wanted the parks to change. Walt wanted the parks to improve. He didn't want the parks to change without purpose. And they bought all the land they needed for the Florida project. His words, we've got all the land we need here. So then why are we getting rid of something that is so unique to Disney World? As soon as you put yourself on par with Universal, you become Universal. You no longer are the market differentiator. You were ceding ground. The Magic Kingdom was the #1 park in the world last year. They don't need to do this. I'm telling you all, you got to get loud. You got to get loud. And now, there are more important things in the world to fight for than the rivers of America. I wholeheartedly agree. Obviously, you've heard me ranting all morning about this. But if you really want to show that you got power in numbers, get together and use this as a litmus test. You don't have to be that loud. Disney's weak. Disney's a weak, scared corporation. Bob Iger is fragile. Just get loud. Start a petition. Make them look like the fools that they are. It's not that hard. I could do it, but I'm not going to do it by myself. There's only so many times in my life that I'm going to hear, please stop calling Bob Iger's office, Danny.
I think it's something that I've noticed this ever since D23 is sort of, I mean, how to say it, not to talk about other influencers, but the influencer community in general, and I think you mentioned this, is so scared to say anything
they just want
negative.
the influencer community, they just want their free passes. All they care about is their media.
Want the access.
I don't give two shits about free passes. I don't care.
But unfortunately,
I got enough up here. I got enough up here. I could build a Disney. Okay, I know how to build shit. All right, so I don't need Disney. I love Disney. I want Disney, but I am not afraid of losing access to Disney. I got enough hardware in my house right now. I could build the damn Buzz Lightyear attraction. Okay, so I am just not like, I don't put them on a pedestal. I refuse to do it.
But unfortunately, if all of those voices, I can't believe that every single one of them don't at least understand that there is some importance to keeping certain aspects of the park.
They don't understand anything.
As intact as park.
They don't even.
I would assume they do, but the fear of saying something that will be perceived by those that give them access to the park and the events that they want to attend.
Some might, some may, some not. Look, we're talking about content creators as a whole, but why? Right. But widen that for a minute, because it's not just live streamers, right? I mean, there is a history of Disney apologists in the vlogosphere and the blogosphere. It goes beyond the live streaming, video creation. There are people out there that will constantly tell you that, whatever Disney does is for the best. And like I've ranted before, will tell you, hey, if you can't afford it, you shouldn't go. So Disney's aligned themselves with a certain type of creator that you have to now fit that form factor. So you're spot on. Whether they know or not, it's almost not relevant. What I would suggest is if you actually know better and don't have the ability to speak up, that's even worse than being ignorant.
Well, I would say years ago, I was at, I think it was Epcot, and I had someone from the park come up to us with a little pad, and they asked us a series of, if we wanted to participate in a survey, and asked us a series of questions. And I did so, and they asked me if there was one thing that I could change about my experience, what would it be? And it just so happened that at that point, my children were very small. And there was one thing that I felt that I told them, I think I'm paraphrasing, but I said something along the lines, the magic is slipping away. I started to notice little things, which we've spoken about on the live, whereas like, why am I seeing like certain construction now? Why am I seeing like a dip in the things that I never saw before?
Because the data shows it has no impact, but the data's not accurate.
Well, no, because I mean, the one thing that I noticed in that trip, and mind you, I was with my children, so obviously I had a great time. I try to make as best a time as I can, no matter what the circumstances are. But again, we're also people that have been to the park, at least for me, 100 times or more. Right. So you start observing things that other people that are first timers or have only gone every once in a while don't observe. So yes, for somebody that's been going for decades, I observe differences over long periods of time. And while some can be argued that are for the best or for change or progress or whatever, I agree with you. When you go for progress and completely bypass the aesthetics that differentiate Disney as a general IP against Universal. I haven't stepped foot in Universal in 25 years. And I could go to Universal because it's a hop, skip, and a jump for me as I travel up there. I could include it in my vacation time, but I choose not to because the aesthetics of Disney, the immersion that I get when I'm at Disney is unparalleled. And Universal can't come close to that. So when you start chipping away at the one thing that sets you apart from everybody else, eventually, I will get to the point, I feel, that if they go ahead with the Rivers of America project, I will start skipping Magic Kingdom. Because I have grown kids now, and I'm grown. I would prefer to spend my day at Epcot or perhaps Animal Kingdom than going to Magic Kingdom and feeling a sense of melancholy when I don't see the things that I enjoyed as a child and that my children enjoyed.
Sure, it's going to have the adverse effect. Now you're going to walk into a place that used to be full of nostalgia and magic and happiness, and it's going to have a negative impact. And I think what these folks that are running the company don't understand is that what made Walt's vision so unique is that he dared to do things nobody else would do. And if you wanted to be bold and a visionary, Disney would say, hey, we know that the thing to do is to gut this right now and put in this ride because that's what the data tells us, and the shareholders want to be appeased and the board wants to be appeased. However, we will not be doing that. If they came out and said, we heard you, because they don't like having egg on their face, right?
Right.
So if they came out, and so they don't know how to navigate this, but if they came out and they said, you know what? We've heard you, and in a commitment to realign with the values of the founder, we are going to take this project and we're going to rework it to maintain the vision that Walt set out, that became the vision for Disney parks, the template worldwide. So you're going to tell me that Magic Kingdom is going to be the only Disney park that doesn't have a river? Like the only Magic Kingdom? They got one in Tokyo. I know they got one in France.
That Tokyo content that you put out several weeks ago, it was very eye-opening because I had not seen that before. Yeah. And just the way that company runs that park
Yeah.
in comparison to what we've got in Florida is, I mean, it's embarrassing.
Listen, we could learn a lot from the Japanese on a multitude of levels. Okay,
Right.
just respect and civility towards each other, quality, quality control. But yeah, the way the Oriental Land Company is running things is just top notch. The Oriental Land Company has a better understanding of the brand than the current leadership does domestically. The Oriental Land Company does Disney better than Disney. Thank y'all. I think we almost knocked out this gift goal. Maybe we did. I appreciate y'all. That means a lot. The Oriental Land Company should literally just buy out the Walt Disney Company. I know it'll never happen. It's a pipe dream. But they should just take them out because they know what's up. Like, there are things they do over in Tokyo that are so small in terms of cost, in terms of execution, but the value, the perception of value, pays dividends. Dividends. Okay? From having Mickey-shaped chicken nuggets, to having different flavored popcorn, to having reasonably priced merchandise, to having free tickets to get on some of the attractions, to the way they even structure their early entry process, to just everything. Everything is just done to elevate the guest experience there. Okay? I can't think of one moment in my 2 visits to Tokyo in the Disney parks where I ever thought that they cut corners. Even in areas where they would normally cut corners, like in domestic parks, they still go. Like areas that could be a screen, they've got a full-on animatronic in the background. The grates for the Frozen ride, the air conditioning grates in the ceiling, Danny, are themed. They're Arendelle air conditioning grates.
That in particular, I think I've seen that post where you just put the length of it was impressive alone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The amount of time on the ride. But for someone who remembers Maelstrom in Norway, and who enjoyed it for what it was,
sure.
When I've only ridden Frozen Ever After one time. I have no plan. I'm going now in about a month. I have no plans to get a lightning lane or to try to even go to it. And that was before seeing what you shared from Tokyo. Knowing that exists, that level of detail, that attention to detail, that truly elevated, would make me interested in riding it and spending all that time on that ride. I was like,
when is this ride going to end?
Epcot.
I mean, I'm holding the phone, filming it, right? Recording it, not filming it. The geek in me has to change that. There's no film in my phone. So I'm holding the phone, and I'm like, did I go on it twice? Like, this ride has not ended. Like, not that my phone is heavy, but eventually, like, I got to stop the video, It was
a recreation of the film.
It was literally the entire movie. And here's the thing. Like, it's the same Imagineers. It's not like they've got different Imagineers. They've got the ability to do it here. They just opt not to. They know they don't need to. See, Tokyo Disneyland is a locals park. It is not built for us. It is built for the locals who in theory will never go to Disney World. So there are people that travel to Disney in Tokyo from other areas in Japan for the first time to experience going to a Disney park. And they do not disappoint their guests. They understand that it means something to them. I mean, listen, I'm not saying we should do this here, but they let their guests dress up as characters to the nines. I mean, you see these women walking around in full-on bell gowns, okay? I've never worn a dress in my life, at least not that I can remember. But I would be so worried about my dress getting dirty. I don't know how these women are walking around in like $5,000 gowns. I'm like, you're going to get soot on the bottom of your dress. I could never aside from not wearing dresses, I could never do that. I'd be so worried. I get worried that my jeans are going to get dirt on them. But these women are like, they love it so much. I'm like, that's Belle. And she's taking a picture with a prince from the park. I'm like, I don't even know which one of y'all work here.
I think a lot of it, there were parts of the videos that you put up particularly like showing when everyone was seated, waiting for the parade.
Yeah.
I think obviously there are cultural differences. I go to the park maybe the last 10, 15 years, and it takes a lot out of, I come from a Hispanic background, so I have to bite my tongue a lot because people are just rude in general. So to see that was refreshing, where everybody has like a level of courtesy and consideration for the people around them. That would be enjoyable and would probably make our experiences more. But I'm not going to hold my breath to see that
Right.
at the Florida park because I know the nature of the beast over here. I think particularly in Florida, because it's a destination within the U.S. and for people coming from everywhere,
Sure.
that it's the one park in the world, just my impression, the one park in the world where the least amount of attention is given to detail because they can kind of get away with it.
It is the Magic Kingdom in Disney World is the McDonald's of Disney parks.
That's a good analogy.
It just is. It is. It's one big play place.
Yeah, it is.
It is because it just go to Disneyland, look at how many more attractions they've got crammed in there. Look at the theming, look at the execution. Go to Tokyo. I haven't done the other parks, but I can tell you from going to Tokyo and going back to the Magic Kingdom, it is such a downer. And they've cheaped out everywhere. Even the Fantasyland
and you would
expansion.
think that the place that had more land would be better.
But
you would think that
look
the
who's
place
running the
that
company.
has the land available.
Look who's running the company. Danny, it's been a pleasure
No,
to talk to you. I'm going to keep
it's
moving.
anything.
I didn't even realize that
Thank
I
you.
had the comments on. I thought I turned off the comments on YouTube. I see all the comments going on over there. I thought I had those turned off, but I do recognize that you cannot hear the callers on TikTok. I do have a way to set that up at the moment. I don't have that set up. Kind of gives you a good reason to go over to YouTube and follow over there. 407-504-1889. We're very close to hitting that gift goal on TikTok. Hitting that gift goal is going to let me know you want me to do this again, and I appreciate that support. So nice to talk to Danny. That, to me, is the value of doing this. It is not every day that we do this. I used to do this a lot more in the early days, but you certainly don't get the opportunity to hear the voice of the viewer when you're running around the park reading comments. I like this. I like hearing from you all. And to that extent, we're going to take another call. So go over to YouTube if you want to hear the caller. 757, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Isabel.
How are you, Isabel?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I wanted to ask, what are your opinions on the New Year's event with Tiana? Do you feel like they're outpricing families?
Well, they're definitely outpricing families. The question is my thoughts on the New Year's Eve event. You mean the New Orleans-themed event at the California Grill? Is that what you're asking about?
Yes, it's like $7.99, I believe, per person.
The New Orleans event at the California Grill.
Yep.
Yeah, the New Orleans-themed event at the California Grill makes 0 sense to me. You have 2 resorts that match that theme. Why are you doing that at the Cali Grill? I understand the view, but just from a theming perspective, it doesn't make sense. Then on top of that, they're charging an arm and a leg. It's $800. You're basically going to a bar mitzvah up there. It's like Tiana's bat mitzvah, okay? Because it's all food stations. It's ridiculous. I don't know what family would want to go to that. $3,200 for a family of 4. You know what you could do with $3,200 with a family of 4?
A lot.
A lot. We don't even have time to break it down. But so I think it's absurd. But the theming alone is ridiculous. The California Grill, you've got 2 resorts. To go do that over at Port Orleans. It doesn't match the theme.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think of that perspective.
I love the Cali
It doesn't
Grill.
match the theme.
I love the Cali Grill. But listen, unless they those short rib beef braised wontons out on a shaving dish, I can't justify it. If I could go up there and eat $800 worth of those wontons, I'll consider it. Even then, it's a little pricey. Now, I think it's a horrible idea. I don't think it represents pricing out families because it's clearly not designed for families. I question who they're marketing that to.
Yeah. Do you believe that Disney will like change in pricing? Because like, you know, a lot of things recently have released where the pricing has been kind of ridiculous, including those new like lightning lane passes, I believe. They're like $300 a day per person as well.
Nope. I think as long as people keep paying these prices, Disney will never have an incentive to change them. I think if you really want to see Disney change the way they're operating, then you need true consumer advocacy. Okay? But we continue to pay. And those new lightning lane passes, those passes that cost more than a park ticket, those are marketed to wealthy people that don't know how the parks work but have the money to burn. That is not marketed to the average family. I don't understand. From the long-term perspective, to Danny's point about generational visits to the parks, you want to keep bringing in new consumers so that they get raised on going to the parks, so they want to bring their kids back to the park. But if you continue to ice out those future generations of consumers for the short-term gains by bleeding your deep-pocketed guests, then at some point you're going to hit that ceiling. At some point, there's going to be nobody there in generations to come because they're not going to have anything to experience because there's no memory there because they didn't go there. They went to Universal instead, and they didn't have the impact of Rivers of America. Disney doesn't care about long-term gains. I firmly believe Bob Iger is ready to sell the company. I think he's basically trying to thin things up, trying to boost revenues so that on the balance sheet it looks good, so he can turn around and sell the company so they can hack up some of the land in Florida and sell that off too. Bob Iger said in his book that he would have merged the Walt Disney Company with Apple if Steve Jobs didn't pass away. So this man is totally on board with an M&A, mergers and acquisitions. This guy is totally on board with that. All right. So no, I think unless people stop giving them all their money, that's the only way this works.
Yeah. So I have one more question for your opinion.
Please.
Do you believe it's about DVC and all these new resorts that they're building? And I know they're doing a few expansions, which, in my opinion, I don't really think they're expansions because they're just taking away pieces of the park. They're not really adding on.
Correct.
Do you believe that all of these new resorts and like all the new DVC hotels and towers, that they're just like overloading the parks in general as well?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the same thing. I mean, DVC is an expensive product, so they're building more resorts to speak to that. They're doing DVC lounges, all these different things. They're favoring that because that's the bigger money, right? That's the short-term proposition for larger grab, larger revenue. I think if you were focused on bringing in new guests, you'd be building rooms for everybody. But their focus on DVC resorts shows you that they're focused on taking the most amount of money from the people that have it. Just like that Star Wars resort. That Star Wars resort was not built for people that stay at the All-Stars. It was built for the people that stay at the Grand Floridian.
Yeah. I completely agree.
And by the way, these resorts are ugly. I passed this this it looks like the monolith from 2001 Space Odyssey that they're building next to the Poly. Which, by the way,
I did see that.
You hit on capacity. So you know what they're going to do? The folks that are staying across the street, and by the way, happy Veterans Day, all of our veterans that are staying across the street at Shades of Green, who used to walk across the street to get the monorail, are now going to be relegated to taking buses because they're going to need to use that monorail capacity for the folks that are going to be walking over from the DVC building.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, way to look out for our troops.
Yeah, because I saw that they just built the not Copper Creek, the little bungalow type, the cabins at Fort Wilderness, and you know, they're selling them for the same price point as like the Riviera or, you know, the Grand Floridian, which doesn't really seem, you know, really accurate because you're just getting a little cabin versus, you know, the Grand Floridian Resort. So, you know, obviously there's people that's buying it, but, you know, I just wanted to see what your opinion was on that, because I do think that they're just kind of, you know, pumping out these rooms and people are, you know, buying them, but they're not really at the same value or level that they used to be in the past, such as like the Grand Floridian or like maybe the Wilderness Lodge.
No, they're not. The new resorts, the new rooms they're building are not at the same level. The other thing I have to say on that, prior to being a local, is unless I really wanted to stay somewhere to experience the pool area or just say I did it once, I never really stayed at the resorts based off of anything other than park access. Like, I don't intend to be at the resort too long. I need a place to sleep at night. If I'm going to Disney World, I'm going to be out and about, right? So generally speaking, I was not one to justify spending tons of money to stay at something, place like the Polynesian or Yacht and Beach or whatever, because what am I paying for? Unless I'm really, you know, unless I got a family and I need the amenities of the pool area. As an individual, I never could justify the expense. It is absurd to expect a family of four to, I mean, Kenzie and I did it on the podcast a few weeks ago. We did the math. It was almost the same amount of money to send a family of four to Tokyo than it was to send them to Disney World and stay at a moderate level resort. So I just don't understand it. It just, again, they're just going after the deep pocket people, and they just keep raising prices, and Disney is just becoming more and more of a rich man's playground, and that's it.
Yeah, no, very true. Well, my dad did just come back from Tokyo. He left back January, and he's going again this January. And after seeing all of your videos and your trip, I guess that's where I need to go next.
Yeah.
It looks a lot better. And we ended up going to Disney World in September, and my dad just kept going on and on about how, like, after going to Tokyo, Disney World is just not the same. And like how over there, you know, they have benches everywhere, and here, you know, there's no benches for you to even just sit at. So I guess that's going to be the new trip moving forward.
Yeah, and we started, so there's a travel form on my website, and we were talking a few weeks ago about a group trip to Tokyo. And when William gets back into the country, he's traveling, we are going to start putting that together. And I'm going to go. And for anyone that wants to go, it'll be a group trip. And at least, you know, for those that have never been, you'll have the benefit of somebody that knows what they're doing there. And quite frankly, for me, any excuse to get back there is a good excuse.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to take a look at that. Thank you so much for answering my call this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you. I hope you have a great day. If you want to give me a call, I would love to talk to you. Again, you can listen to this on YouTube and hear the callers. 407-504-1889. If you think I should podcast out this audio, let me know. You can listen to yesterday's podcast at Under the Influence, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. This, I would like to do for at least another hour and a half here. So give me a call, 407-504-1889. Knocking out that gift goal on TikTok is going to let me know that you like the format and what we're doing. And that'll let me know to keep doing it. This is something I've been thinking about doing for a long time. So here we are. We used to do the radio shows back in the day, and I would live stream just the audio on Instagram. I think it's more important to be doing it on TikTok and YouTube. If you want to hear the callers, go to YouTube. We got another caller right now. Let's go to the phones. 256, you're on the air.
Hey, this is James again. Hopefully I don't make you too comfortable like last time. But
yes, sir.
I had, so a couple callers ago, y'all were talking about, you know, Rivers of America and how, you know, creators just aren't really, you know, they're not speaking up. They're afraid of Disney and all, right? And I have a different take on it. I mean, and I agree to an extent that they want the media pass, right? But the big thing is, it's not attractive. It's not pretty. You know, that's not what their viewers want to see. They made a big stink about Dash Pass, right? because that affected them personally. A lot of creators would use that path to be able to skip the lines and everything. But now, this kind of stuff, because I'm absolutely pissed that they're getting rid of Rivers of America. Like keep the daggone ferry boat, man. Like it's not a super fun attraction, but it is still like it's just nice. It's a nice break away from the hustle and bustle of the park. And Tom Sawyer's Island as well. Like like the caller said, letting the boys run around there, man. You don't have to worry about them getting anywhere. What are they going to do? Go jump in the water? No. So it's nice not to have to stress about them. You can just chill out for a little bit. I don't understand why we're getting rid of this stuff. I know Walt always said, the parks will be forever changing. But it's like you said as well. They got to improve. Right. They don't just change to change. Well, it's got to get better.
It's the same thing with a remake of a movie. Think of a movie that has been remade and ask yourself, why did they remake it? Other than the pursuit of money, which is why most things are done in business. Mm-hmm. Why remake a movie if you're not going to elevate the source material? So if the very thing that you are going to replace is not going to be elevated, then why do it? And if you think that they will elevate it, I would ask you to go look at what they did to the ride right behind it. Look at what they did to Splash Mountain. If you think what they did to Tiana's Bayou Adventure is plussing, it is not. Now, I'm sick and tired of these people crying on Twitter. They won't shut up about Splash Mountain. It's gone. Get over it. But I would point to it as the current state of Imagineering. I mean, look at that ride and how really underwhelming that retheming is, aside from the story, which, by the way, we get shrunken down and then whatever, okay? And then go look at the brand new rides in Fantasy Springs and Tokyo. Look at what they're capable of doing and what they're choosing to do. It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and the agreements that we have with, is it Shanghai maybe, to where, like they get these incredible, just insane attractions. We can't even break ground on that attraction. I don't believe anywhere else, but definitely not in the U.S. For 5 years after that they had opened.
First of all, nothing in this country moves at an effective rate. Nothing in this country moves at an effective rate. Period. All right. So that's a cultural issue, because if you go to Tokyo and you look at that Space Mountain, that new Space Mountain they're building, they're ahead of schedule. That's nuts. They're ahead of schedule. Of course, it's not surprising. The Japanese, I mean, they're unreal. I don't know if you caught me when I was in Tokyo, but that coffee vending machine it was broken one morning in the hotel lobby, and I came back midday and it was fixed. That's not even in the parks. Right. That's just a vending machine in the lobby in a hotel. Here in this country, that would sit for 6 months. Somebody would send an email and say, we need a part. We don't have the part. The part's on back order. Meanwhile, the part's sitting on a shelf. Nobody wants to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cultural issue. Look, but to go back to what you said about the content creators being afraid to speak up because their audience doesn't want to hear it, and what you said about the gas of it all, it's sort of like that boy who cries wolf thing. Well, I was yelling about this. I'm not going to yell about this. I've already done it. They've already heard me complain, and that was for my own self-interest. Right. They don't want to hear me complain about this, and I don't have any real value. I don't have any real stake in the fight, so there's no real value in me bringing this up. Most content creators are only thinking about themselves. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm selfless. I'm just saying that I think about the audience. I think about the company. I try to do my streams in the park in a way that respects the guest experience. I try to do my thing in a way that if all else failed, they could say, hey, you know what? At least he respected the place. At the end of the day, I don't need media passes. I don't need the company to thank me for all the marketing none of that. Okay? I just want to show my love for the place, but I'm going to be real about when the place is failing to show its love back. And right now, the company has shown that they don't give 2 you-know-whats, you're not going to get me again, about their audience, about their core group. All they want to do is drain you. Drain you like they're going to drain the rivers of America. The rivers of America, draining the rivers of America is the perfect metaphor for what they're doing to the consumer. They're draining them. Bob Iger's got to go.
Yep. Yeah, you know, Iger, I feel like they really used Chapek as just a setup for everything.
They did. Did you read that article?
You know, no.
I forget who wrote the article. Go look it up. I don't know if it was the Times. Somebody did a whole editorial on what actually happened behind the scenes with Bob Chapek. And what you just said is actually proven. Bob Chapek was brought in as the fall guy. We were all taught to hate him. Bob Iger manipulated Bob Chapek. Even the deal, the lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson, Bob Chapek caught the flack for that and was completely blindsided because Bob Iger made that call. So Bob Iger literally used Chapek. Yeah, there's a whole article about it.
I was on board. I hated Chapek.
Yeah.
You know, he's public enemy number one. But then when Iger comes back and it's like, oh, King Bob's back, we're saved, everything. Then it's like, wait, nothing's changing.
So
we're moving in the same direction we were under Chapek. What's happening here? Like, he snitched on himself.
But this is the theme that I think we need to pull back and look on from the larger perspective in life. Okay, is we can't just put blind trust in leadership, period, point blank, across the board. We as people, as a community, need to speak up. We need to take control of situations, and we need to own them. We got to stop relying on the powers at be to do right by us. We have seen time and time again, no matter what it is in our cultural landscape, whether it's government, whether it's entertainment, whatever it is, we are always put last. Okay? The special interests are always put first. The corporate dollars are always put first, and that is capitalism. I get it. I appreciate it. I support it. But we're all giving Disney our money. It'd be very easy for all of us to stop giving Disney our money and be heard. But nobody's got the guts to do it. I'll tell you what right now. I'll tell you what right now. If Disney will fully refund my annual pass, okay, and buy back all of my stock at a 30% markup, okay, I will bow out. Disney, buy back all my stock at a 30% markup and refund my annual pass. You have my number. I'll wait for the call and I will bow out. I would take my stock out right now if I could at least break even. Give me a 30%
Look,
bump.
just do us all a favor. Don't hold your breath waiting for that call.
Well, listen, that's my point, though. That's my point, right? Like, they know. They're like, no. And you know what? You know what Disney would say to that? They'd be like, we don't need your investment. We don't need your money. They don't care about us. And I'm not expecting them to. I'm just simply saying we can stand on the sidelines and cry, or we can actually exert force and create action. So if this is a fight people want to take, if you want to stop them gutting Liberty Square and Rivers of America from the park, now's the time, because we're running out of it. But seriously speaking, what
would your suggestions be to do so?
Well, I think you got to stage a protest. I think you have to find it. I mean, look, there's two ways to do it. Okay, you do it in the public sphere online. Okay, and I'm not really sure, other than like a MoveOn.org petition, much along the lines of what they did with Splash Mountain. That would be one way to do it. The other way to do it is to literally pull their pants down in the park, where it's going to get the most visibility. What does that look like? That either looks like a dead day where nobody shows up in the park, or it looks like a full-on protest on Tom Sawyer Island, where a bunch of people have paper signs folded up in their backpacks, and they all go out on Tom Sawyer Island, and they all picket. Disney is not going to suspend everybody's passes at the same time. They're not going to do that. It's not going to be good for the news story. But most people don't have the guts to do that. I'll do it. Look, I make the joke about the stock, right? But if I could get rid of that stock and at least break even, I would have gotten rid of it months ago. If I could have at least pulled my money out of Disney after some of these decisions that they've made, I would have. But I'm not going to do it at a massive loss.
Right. You got to at least break even.
Yeah.
And
at this point,
unfortunately, I don't know how long it's going to be before you can break even on Disney right now.
I mean, I'm close just because of where my shares are averaged out. You know, I'm close, but
right.
If it actually got back to where the stock should be trading at, then it would have been a wise investment. But I've lost faith in the company.
Right.
I've lost faith in the company.
Oh, yeah, hands down. And the thing is, who do we have to look forward to that could maybe help save? You know, like I like the face of Josh D'Amaro. No. But I like the face that Josh D'Amaro has put on. But what is he actually doing?
Josh D'Amaro is horrible.
Like
Josh D'Amaro is part of the.
Yeah, he looks great in the park. He's doing things that most people won't do, but he's still not doing anything for us.
Yeah, and all he did was trade on what are now dwindling good looks, right? Because at this point, he looks like he's been on Skid Row. All right, he looks completely frazzled. All right, he is not the next CEO. I would rather see Dana Walden. Okay, but quite frankly, Tom Staggs and Kevin Mayer are the only answer, and it's not going to happen, even though internally it's been discussed. I would like to see Jeffrey Katzenberg lead a hostile acquisition. I just don't know if he's too old for it. Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted the CEO. Right. He wanted the CEO chair ages ago. When Frank Wells passed away, Jeffrey Katzenberg lobbied Michael Eisner at Frank Wells' funeral for the job.
Wow.
Katzenberg
that's wild.
has the reach. Katzenberg's got the capital. Katzenberg could go to Geffen. Katzenberg could go to Spielberg. Katzenberg could do a hostile acquisition of the Walt Disney Company. I don't think he will, but that's a guy that could actually pull it off. And I bet you he would have the support of Abigail Disney.
Yeah. And how do we get Disney Studios back on track, man? I don't know about you, but I'm so sick and tired of remakes and sequels and like, why don't we get the original stories like we always have?
You know, it's interesting. So I was watching a clip. Was it Matt Damon? I think it was Matt Damon talking about filmmaking. Yeah, it was Matt Damon. It might have been like Matt Damon on Hot Ones or something. And he was talking about the state of the feature film business. And he was talking about how, and this is inside baseball, but he was talking about how the distribution windows affected the business, right? Pre-streaming. So what happens is when DVDs, when the DVD market existed, it was very easy to say, listen, we can finance this movie. Okay. We can pre-sell foreign distribution to so many territories, and we're going to make up so much of this on the back end in DVD sales. Well, those windows have been eroded. Okay. Those distribution windows have fully been eroded. So now what you do is you say, listen, I got to make the bulk of this up front. So if I'm going to make a Marvel movie, because that's what's called a 4-quadrant picture, I'm going to spend as much on the movie as I am on the P&A, the print and advertising. All right. So if I spent $300 million on the movie, I'm going to spend $300 million to market it, because the nature of a 4-quadrant picture says if I spend that much money globally, I should be able to have a hit. Okay. You saw that fail for something like Joker 2. It didn't work. But what shareholder or what director on the board is going to fault you for that approach? If you said, hey, I'm going to go take a risk on this art house thing, and they're going to go, well, where are you going to make the money back? You can't even pre-sale it. The film business was all about pre-sales and second windows. And if I can't do that, it doesn't make any sense. It makes more sense to make another Zootopia or to make Ice Age 6, because at least there's data that says this brand has pre-awareness, and if I spend against it, I got a better chance on making a profit. It's a calculated risk.
Right.
So you're not going to get a return back to proper storytelling because the distribution windows aren't there to offset the risk. I remember in my days of trying to get movies made, it was all about pre-selling. If you could pre-sell this movie to Japan, if I could pre-sell the movie to Japan based off the actors that were in the movie, then I could get gap funding in the States. You know, there's a really interesting story. I think it was the John Wick movies that I read. Also, this is what I do in my time off, is reading, right? I think it was Eva Longoria did the gap funding for the John Wick movie. And I think she said her biggest regret was that she didn't fund all of them. You know, so the funding and the way that the monies are returned, the nature of the business, the distribution windows, heavily altered the creative process. And then, of course, you add the streaming to that as well, right? It becomes a whole other mishigas. So that was kind of a really insightful bit of video to catch and a great question. But I don't think you're going to look. Moana's going to come out. It's probably going to do okay for them because they saved a ton of money using TV animation. We'll see. We'll see. You know, I just think the days of art house cinema are gone. The days of movies like, I don't know why Magnolia is the first movie that came to mind, or Shakespeare in Love, or, you know, anything like that. The days of As Good as It Gets, what a great movie. The days of making films like that are over. They're just over. They're over. There's no way to recoup your money on that stuff, you know? And unless somebody takes a huge risk and proves everybody wrong, then there'll never be something like that again. It'll take somebody making a swing for it and succeeding for somebody else to want to emulate it. That's how it works, right? That's what disruptors are. That's how capitalism works. That's how free market works. Somebody disrupts things. They have success. Now other people go, oh, well, now it's not so risky because he proved it. And since he proved it, you can't fault me for taking a swing at it now. You see what I'm saying? 407-504-1889. If we hit that gift goal on TikTok and we're very, very close, then I'll know that you want me to do this again. Thank you for your support. 407-504-1889. I don't know what the next bout of leadership is going to bring for the Walt Disney Company. I don't know what we can do to make our voices heard, but I would suggest if you really are interested in fighting this fight for rivers of America, go study the Splash Mountain playbook. Go look at what they did that made that work and utilize that playbook. Okay? Now, you can politicize the issue if you want to. I'm not going to, but you can politicize the issue and see why Disney responded to Splash Mountain the way they did, and then maybe find a way to leverage that same fear. Use their playbook against them. But the only way you're going to get Disney to actually cave is to embarrass them. And I really didn't know the comments were on YouTube. I thought I had them turned off. So hello to everybody over there. 407-504-1889. I'm not sure what Tom just said, but good to see you, buddy. Hey, I see Jeff over there. Jeff's been watching me forever. Oh, wow. Very cool. Very cool. But, you know, listen, Disney and Universal are two very different companies. And you have to remember that we wouldn't even have Galaxy's Edge if somebody over at Universal didn't take the risk on Harry Potter. It was Harry Potter. It was building the Harry Potter land that actually made Disney take the swing for Galaxy's Edge. So that's what it is. That's what healthy competition is. It breeds innovation. But I really think if y'all want to have an impact on Disney, you gotta move quick, because Rivers of America is going away in the new year. I don't know what the construction date is, but I've given you options. Go out there, do your homework. Email. I would give you Michael Eisner. Oh my gosh. I would give you Bob Iger's email right now, but I don't want to get in trouble for publicizing it. But that's very nice to see Tom in there. Tom's been around forever. Tom's from my neck of the woods. I've been doing this 4 years. Wow. Hi, Heather. I see Heather over there. 407-504-1889. We've covered it all. We've been going for almost 3 hours. I'd love to know your thoughts on anything we've discussed. I've talked about why I didn't do the Christmas party despite having a ticket. We talked about the Tyson fight coming up. I think he's going to dismantle Jake Paul. I very much look forward to that. Might even be fun to live stream a companion stream on that just because I love that kind of stuff. Although I think it's going to be short. Although that's if it's legit. If it's purely scripted and rigged, that's another story. Then it'll be a draw. 407-504-1889. I'm going to say it again, folks. It's your last chance over the next couple months to make your voices heard with Disney, okay? This Rivers of America thing is happening. I put up the video on TikTok. I put up the video on Twitter of what the ride system actually looks like, the stock ride system. This is not plussing the parks. This is minusing the parks. Now, if you are listening on TikTok, thank you for contributing to the gift goal. Knocking out that gift goal is going to let me know that you like what I'm doing here. And when we're done doing it, if it's knocked out, then hey, you'll tell me all I need to know, because I'd love to be doing more of these every week, in addition to Legos, in addition to streaming, in addition streaming the parks, in addition to gaming, in addition to all of those things. If you think I should podcast this audio out where Under the Influence is hosted, I can do that as well. I just looked over and saw a turkey on my head. I'm all ears. The newsletter came out, so there's a question form. You can submit questions to the podcast as well. For me, I think it's just more important to start having these conversations and to open up the lines of communication and to really take this community out of TikTok and into the real world. I love what we did with Keena and North Carolina, and I want to do that with your help in other areas of our country. So if there's something that we need to be focusing on, if there's something that needs to be brought to attention in your community, whatever the issue may be, reach out to me. There's 100 different ways you can get a hold of me, and we can use this platform to bring people back together, to bring people to the center, and to start having conversations that we haven't had in a long time. You know, I could sit here and talk to you about Disney and Rivers of America, but at the end of the day, it's just a small sliver of a much larger issue. And look, I love this country. I don't want to see Disney gut Americana. Walt wanted to celebrate everything that makes this country so special. So gutting that from the park that's going to have traffic from all over the world seems wild to me. I want other people who are traveling to Disney World for the first time, who come to the Magic Kingdom for the first time, to experience a little bit of yesteryear, okay? And that is very much what Frontierland and Liberty Square set out to encapsulate. So I'm all for truncating the river, make the island smaller, don't let people visit the island anymore, dock the boat if you have to, whatever. Don't ruin the front-facing aesthetic. And I'm also waiting for somebody to find out the state of the permits, because the permitting process may be the thing that stops this project from moving forward, because they got slapped with a whole bunch of stuff on the permit. 407-504-1889. 407-504-1889. So close to knocking out that goal on TikTok. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Peach. Nice to see you all in YouTube as well. And I think what we'll do is we'll put this video up on YouTube for replay. And I look forward to your feedback. If you think this audio is worth podcasting out as well, then we can do that too. I'll hang out here for a couple more minutes. I want to hear from you. 407-504-1889. I very much appreciate you tuning in. I love radio. I love the idea of talking to folks and hearing your voice. Tone is lost in text, so it's always fun to do something like this. If you did not listen to yesterday's podcast yet, it is up wherever you listen to podcasts. That is Under the Influence. I'm going to go for another 15 minutes here. That'll take us to about the 3-hour marker, and then I'll cut it so you have about 15 minutes to knock out that gift goal or to call in 407-504-1889. I have to go back to what I was telling you at the top of the show. at the media event. I went to this media event. I don't do media events. I'm not on the media lists, but the Swan has me on their media list because I've done business with them. So I get invited to this event, and it's just all like content creators and influencers. A couple I recognize, most I didn't. But it is the most vapid experience. And like, I said this yesterday, but the first thing that caught me was they had background music playing. So all these content creators are walking around with like plates. It's like their arms are covered in tapas, you know, like little plates lined up and down their arms, like looking for a place to do their little videos, myself included. The wind is blowing, the music is playing. I'm like, why do you have background music? Like, I'm looking at this event, I'm like, what are we doing here? Why do you have background music? I got to edit. This music is going to be a clearance issue. How did you not think? I'm like, I'm new. I didn't say anything. But I'm looking around, I'm like, this is not my place. I don't want to be media. Like, I don't want to be theme park press. Like, I took one look at that and I was like, no. If I'm going to be media, if I'm going to be press, if I'm going to have access to something, I want to be asking questions. I want to be finding answers. I love that the event was to support wounded warriors. Like, I love that. But so that made me feel good because I got to share that with folks. But I don't want to be theme park press. I'm 43 years old. I want answers. I want to leave an impact on this world. So I'm standing there. The event never starts on time. I get it, but I'm always on time. And I'm just looking around. I'm like, and I shut down because I have social anxiety, right? So I shut down because I don't want to talk to anybody. And then I'm like walking around overhearing these conversations, and I'm like, these are not my people. These are the cringiest conversations, you know? And everyone's like, oh, you want to be in my video, bro? I'm like not to me, to other people. It's just, I'm like, ugh, like, get me out of here, you know? I've done lots of media in my life. I've done red carpet events in LA. I'm all about content turnaround. I've done many red carpets where I've been out till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then stayed up editing till 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to turn around and get the content out fast. I used to be a fixture on red carpets in LA because we were known for our turnaround time. So I go to this event and I come home and I crank out like 4 videos, and I'm just curious if some of the faces that I recognize have turned out any content. And they haven't put any content out yet because they're not there for that. They're there to eat their free food, chum it up with each other, feel important, and then go, you know, eventually they'll shove their face in a camera and show it to you. But I'm like, no, to me, if you're media, and by the way, I mark the videos when I posted them as sponsored because I feel like it's disingenuous to post these videos and act like I wasn't given special access. So I marked them as sponsored, right? Because it's just, it's bias that I'm showing you this stuff because I was given access, right? But for me, if you're media, you have to function within turnaround time. So if you invite me to this event, I go into mode and I'm going to go home and I'm going to crank out this content. I say all that to say, if I'm going back into that groove, it's not about food in a theme park. If I'm moving back into that groove, we're going to be asking people in power important questions and seeking answers. If I'm going to be media, okay, if I'm going to be grinding out videos to get to meet an arbitrary deadline that only I imposed upon myself, it's going to be with purpose. We're going to go out there and we're going to make sure that we put people in check. We're going to get answers from the people in power across the board, whether it's Disney and Rivers of America, whether it's your local government and some wedge issue that you want to fight for, whatever it may be, okay? That's where I want to take this platform. I've been saying this from day one. Running around a theme park is great escapism, but sometimes you got to buckle down and you got to take control and you got to seek answers. We are too divided as a people, okay? The media and the two-party system has pushed us into our corners, and I want to use the little bit that I've got here, the little bit of reach, to pull everybody back into the middle, to stop the vilification of those we don't agree with, to seek common ground, okay, and to have fun. Doesn't mean we won't be in the parks. It doesn't mean we won't do all the things we've done before. But this is the beginning of something different. 407-504-1889. I got another 10 minutes here. You can knock out that gift goal, and that'll let me know that you like what I'm doing. I'd love to talk to a couple more callers before we wrap this up. I want to know if you think I should podcast this audio out as well. I want to know, maybe you don't even like this. Tell me. If you don't like this, maybe this is not what I want from you. Just be my monkey and go out there and sit on the people mover and make me happy. Tell me. I won't agree with you, but call 407-504-1889, okay? Thank you all so much over there on TikTok. I think we're almost at the goal, so thank you for the support. I appreciate you because I certainly am operating with a certain level of uncertainty here. You know, just a few more minutes as we wind it down. 407-504-1889. You can go to the newsletter, and there's a link to submit questions for the podcast. You know, I do the podcast with Kenzie every weekend. This may very well evolve into an extension of that. I really don't know. What I do know is I love the format. I love doing radio. I like the sense of urgency of keeping the ball in the air, right? You're not supposed to have dead air if you're a pro, right? That's what we're doing here. I don't want to have comments on TikTok. I don't want to be distracted. The YouTube window is behind the phone window on my computer, so it's not a visual distraction. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not looking at it. In the future, I'll probably have that turned off, but I look forward to your feedback. I got a lot of feedback yesterday from folks. They really enjoy what I've been doing, what I've been saying, and if you show me that you're going to stick with me, then I'm going to keep doing it. I know people found me years ago during the pandemic to escape and to share a love of Disney, but this is all of me. This is me taking off the filter. I said for years the filter would come off one day. This is it. It's not a scary thing. It's just I'm not going to hold back anymore. I'm going to tell you how I feel, full Italian hand gestures and all. Okay, so this is the unfiltered me. 407-504-1889. Lest somebody says, oh, who peed in his Cheerios? No, nobody did. My Cheerios have always been soaked in something. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. 407-504-1889. I have to also go back to the Wicked thing because I'm so excited for this movie. I don't know the last time I saw a movie in theaters, but every time I see an ad for Wicked, I just get so excited. I love the music in Wicked. I'm just, they've been trying to make this movie forever, and I just think it might be the first time in a very long time I go to the theaters. I'm just super excited for it. I'm a musical theater geek. So it certainly excites me on that level. I love The Wizard of Oz. I saw Wicked on Broadway. So I'm very excited for that. And I even broke down. I got the Wicked Legos. So I have to build those at some point. And speaking of Legos, I have been building the mini Lego amusement park that so many of you have seen. It is growing. There's another ride coming that is in the middle of being built. And I have figured out how to take the Legos and integrate them into the software and hardware that I have that control animatronics. The same software and hardware that they use over at Universal Studios on some of their animatronics and show systems. I figured out how to integrate the Legos into the animatronics, and I don't know what that means. I don't know. All I know is I could basically, in theory, one day have a mini Lego amusement park come to life, be fully programmatic. But that's where I'll introduce Nick into the equation, because I'm like one of these guys that's like, yeah, that's what we should do. He's the kind of guy that'll be like, here's how we're going to do it, And I look forward to bringing Nick back into the fold more. Him and I had a long talk the other day about the future of everything we do here. And, when we were kids, him and I used to do so many things that would have been like viral videos. Back then there was no YouTube. We'd run around with a camcorder. We'd blow things up. We'd be bad teenagers and wreak havoc. And we joke because now it's like, man, could you imagine if we were kids growing up in this generation? We'd probably be in jail. But now we're a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser, a little bit older. And I'm like, the kids in us would kill to have an audience that would just want to watch us play. So I'm going to bring Nick into the fold on the Legos and the programming at some point. I have a new 3D printer coming, which means the animatronic kits are going to get reintroduced again because I don't know if you heard this, but one of my 3D printers went flying off the table and smashed. So I look forward to Flash Forge. They are sending me a brand new free multicolor 3D printer. And I look forward to reintroducing the animatronics and trying to bring those up to the next level as well. I've got stuff for kits and circuit boards there. So if you're into STEAM and STEM, you know, these are the things that I've been talking about for years. It just comes down to pulling off the Band-Aid and actually getting it done. Last chance to call in 407-504-1889. And we are 4 away from knocking out that gift goal on TikTok. That's going to let me know that I should do this again. And I appreciate you. And if you think that I should podcast out this audio, shoot me a message. Let me know in the YouTube chat. I'll see it when I end the stream. I'm going to wind this down in a minute. I appreciate you all. 407-504-1889. Write it down because you can call that number next time as well. 407-504-1889. Under the Influence is the name of the podcast. Wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Thank you very much over there on TikTok. 407-504-1889. Let's go to our last caller. 312, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Royce, it's Melissa. How are you?
I'm good, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So first, to comment, I do think you should definitely podcast this out because for some of us who like are running around or working or, you know, are going to miss some of it, would love to go back and listen. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
And then my question for you is, now are you hoping to have this radio show be mostly Disney conversation, or are you looking to discuss other topics or anything? You may have already said this. I missed the beginning, so sorry if you're repeating yourself.
No, I didn't answer that. The question for those that are watching on TikTok, you can hear the callers on YouTube, is this format going to be relegated to just Disney or other topics? So the podcast that I've been doing with Kenzie was designed to tackle those other topics. But I think at the end of the day, it's really hard for me to separate. So as much as people are here for Disney, and I know then the questions come with, well, you should change your name, and you get all these comments all the time, even when you don't want them. I think naturally we're going to talk about whatever we want. I think it just has to happen. I can't limit myself by saying only over here in this format we talk about this and over here we talk about that. But I would suggest.
No, I think that's great.
But I would suggest that I think most things that we have been talking about today kind of stem back to Disney.
Exactly. No, that's great. Just wanted to know your thoughts on that. And I've been going to Disney probably every other year now since my kids were little. Now they're in their teen years. So it's just been super interesting once I started following you, you know, and I've noticed little things, you know, over the years stemming back from my first trip. I believe it was I used to go when I was a kid, but my first trip with my own kids in 2013 till now. And it is very interesting noticing all the little changes and the little things. And some of them are so minor, but now when I think back to that 2013 trip, how things have changed, it is truly unbelievable. So hopefully, you know, some of the magic comes back, you know, and we still love it. We still go, but I just find it all very interesting how it's changed so much too.
Do you remember the birthday cake castle controversy?
I do not.
I forget what year it was. I forget what anniversary it was, but they changed the castle to look like a birthday cake at the Magic Kingdom. And
I did not know that.
So many people were so outraged because they showed up to their once-in-a-lifetime trip and that iconic image was gone. You know, they themed the castle to look like a giant inflatable birthday cake. It was atrocious. It looked like they painted it in Pepto. And
yeah, I can see people would be angry.
Yeah. So what happens to those folks who don't pay attention to every bit of news, who show up to whatever the Rivers of America is going to be, whether it's a construction site or the finished product. But what happens when these people show up expecting to show their grandkids this thing that's no longer there?
No, for sure. And there's definitely got to be that balance, because obviously things will evolve, and you do need to add things like Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought was an amazing addition to Epcot. Like, they needed that one like coaster ride that, for older kids and adults, and I love that. But then again, I mean, I'm one of those Splash Mountain lovers, who goes on that, and I'm just so upset every time I read or see that, so there just has to be that balance, obviously. And like, from hearing you and watching your lives and reading the news, it just seems like they're trying to take things too far. And it's probably in a response to Epic at Universal, but I just think they need to, pump the brakes a little bit.
But why do you need to respond? The Magic Kingdom is the most popular theme park in the world. You don't need to respond. And also, you have all the land you could possibly need. Now, the old want from way back in the day was for a villain's theme park, not a land, a theme park. The company can't afford to build another gate. They just can't. They can't afford it, but both financially and just from an operational perspective. You mentioned that Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot. Guardians is fantastic, but I'm going to bring you to the lights on the ground in the middle of world celebration, whatever the hell they're calling it. Can't keep up. They can't fix the LEDs under acrylic in the ground. How are you going to maintain expansion? You can't fix the lights in the ground in Epcot. How are you going to maintain another trackless RFID ride in the middle of the most popular theme park on the planet?
No, it's ridiculous. So now here's my question. Is it that they can't fix it, or that they just don't want to, or they don't want to put the money into it, or they don't want to waste their time on it?
They just don't want to work.
I think that's more the question.
I don't know if you know this, but I used to be a ride tech at the Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Some people don't know that, so they don't want to work, and we're gonna talk to some folks at some point anonymously to protect their jobs. But I'm gonna get you some real stories, okay? And I can tell you firsthand how many times things didn't get fixed when the parts were right there, but nobody wanted to do the work. I could tell you story after story about situations I was in where I was told to stop. Whether it was
so interesting, because this goes into like a whole other topic. So we're about the same age. I'm 42. And my kids, I have this conversation with my kids all the time. I just think people don't know the value of working hard anymore.
Correct.
I just think it's a general problem with our society. I mean, I see my kids with their cell phones and everything's handed to them, and there's just a laziness.
But it's not just the kids.
Wasn't there.
It's not the kids. It's institutional. I'll tell you a quick story.
Right.
I'm on the job less than 3 weeks. Okay. It's raining.
Yeah.
Okay. The ground is wet. One of the things that happens a lot in the Animal Kingdom is lightning strikes. Lightning strikes blow out the, no pun intended, the lightning lane signs. It just happens to be that way. Okay. And the lightning lane signs, there are IC chips in there. Okay. And they get blown out. And now what you have to do is you have to get up on a ladder. Okay. In the middle of the night in Pandora. And you have to take apart the lightning lane signs, open them up, okay, swap out components, and then kind of rebuild the fixture and put it back up. Now, that sign runs down to the podium, and the podium is on the ground, like literally on the ground, right? So I'm trying to change power supplies, and there are these little tiny power supplies stacked up, and every one of the little screws has Loctite on it. I don't know why, but I'm on the wet ground. I have a trash bag sprawled out on the ground. I'm 3 weeks on the job. and I'm trying my best to unscrew these power supplies because I did everything up top, but now I got to get these power supplies done because it fried them too. But this is a tedious job. It's not a hard job. It's just there's barely a place to get your hand in there. It's literally on the ground, so you have to get like lower than the ground to like get the screwdriver in there. Like, I mean, you got your face on the ground. I mean, you're like in it, you know? It's not hard work.
Right.
It's just tedious. And I got a guy behind me
Right.
who doesn't do anything. Old guy, okay? Not a kid. And he's going, this is taking too long. Just close it up. We'll fix it later. I said, what do you mean we'll fix it later? When's later? Later's not tonight. You're telling me to leave this thing down and just tell operations to use an iPad in the morning? And he goes, I said close it up now. And he starts yelling at me. And I said, I'm a grown-ass man. Don't you ever yell at me. You go do something else. I'll stay here and finish the job. 3 weeks on the job.
Crazy.
He looks at me and he goes, oh, well, let me help you. And he pulls a flashlight out of his pocket and starts shining a light on the area I've been working on. I'm like, you nudnik. Now you're just trying to make up for it with light. Where were you with that flashlight 10 minutes ago? I don't need that extra light. I've been doing this. Same guy. I told you I was going to tell you one story. Same guy. We're at Adventures Outpost.
Yeah.
Lightning lane sign is out. I go, that's an easy fix, man. That's a reset. That's operations problem. F them. I said, it's the Mickey meet and greet. I said, the park opens in an hour. I said, do you understand that people wait like their entire lives to come here? And your response is F them? Like make it operations problem? He goes, well, I don't have a key to the unit. I said, you don't need a key. We're not going in there. I said, no, you're not going in there. I'm going in there. I went in there. I reached behind the whole rack unit, which was locked, and I just hard reset the whole rack. By the time I walked outside, the lightning lane sign was working. They don't want to work. They don't want to work.
Nobody does.
No, they just don't.
And it's obviously not just Disney.
No, and it's not just the youth. It is instilled in the fiber of the business. It is institutional. I remember sitting down with my boss. I walked into his office. I closed the door. I said, listen, man. I said, I know I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but I go, why do you wait till the last minute every morning to start Everest? And he's a Disney guy. Like his family loves Disney, you know. I said, why do you wait till the last minute every morning to start Everest only to find out there's problems? I said, why not start the ride 2 hours earlier? So if the problems manifest, we can actually solve them before park opening because Everest is always delayed. And he goes, Royce, I understand everything you're saying, but the problem is I get way too much pushback when I try to do that. So it's easier for me just to have them open it when they open it and deal with the problems when we deal with them. I really can't get them on board to do that. I'm like, you pay these people. Tell them that's the job.
Right.
Do you know how many times in my short time at the Animal Kingdom, how many times Everest had a delayed opening for no other reason than internal politics?
It's amazing. And it's funny you say that because now thinking back to the trips that I've been on, it is, and I feel like Everest is always open later.
Well, because there's one guy who works on Everest. I'm not going to say his name, but there's one guy who works on Everest who's a gatekeeper. Okay. All right. And I'm going to be real with y'all. All right. He doesn't speak English very well. All right. So he plays a game where he doesn't want to give you any information and he pretends like he doesn't really understand you. So when they put a new guy up there, he ices you out. Right. So now there's no institutional knowledge on Everest being handed down. Okay. From the technician to technician, because the guy is insecure. And he doesn't want anyone he's insecure because he doesn't want anyone to outpace him, i.e. somebody that speaks English. Okay. So he's playing a whole game close to it. I mean, I've had these conversations with people there, former bosses. So he plays this game. How many times I went up to Everest and he just left me in the dust? So I would take it upon myself to do something else. And my manager would go, well, why aren't you over there with so-and-so? And I'd be like, because he doesn't want me over there. He's gatekeeping. And then I would be in trouble. because they loved him, because he knew everything, because he wouldn't let anyone else learn anything. But let me tell you something. The day he was off, if Everest went down, they were effed.
Right, because no one knew what they were doing.
And I'm just being real with you. I think that guy is a racist, and he wouldn't give any information to any of the white guys. It was only Hispanic guys that he would even talk to. I'm just being real.
It's awful. It's awful.
That's just one particular incident. Now, there was another guy that works up there who will show you everything under the sun. Sweetest guy in the world, but he doesn't know anything.
Crazy.
So I remember going up, and now here I'm on my third story, and then I'm going to end this thing. I remember when you get in the queue for Everest, there are these like billboards in the queue. There's like signs like for on either side, but they're actually televisions. Okay. And there's a metal frame that divides them. So one large TV gets split into two signs. I'm never up at Everest. One of these signs is out. Okay. The guy that I told you who's a gatekeeper was off. I'm up there with another guy. Okay. And I said to him, I go, why is this out? He goes, oh, well, I heard it got struck by lightning and they sent an email, but they don't have the part. You know that funny story that they always tell? And I said, really?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, we got all night ahead of us. I said, I'm opening up that frame. He's like, go for it. I open it up. I take a couple looks. I go, okay, so this is the box. This is the box that got fried by lightning. I'm going to hop the box from the other monitor on the other side and find out where the real point of failure is. Wait, what? The TV's fried too? So y'all are ordering a box, but the TV's fried too? So then I get in my golf cart. I drive all the way back down to our building. I go up in the attic. I find the box and the TV, and I go up there, and I find the guy, and I go, I need your help for like the next 2 hours because it's all turning screws, and I just need hands. And I put the sign back. That sign was down for months, weeks on end, because nobody took the time to source the parts. It was easier to say we don't have the part, send an email, kick the can down the road, than it was to actually go up the staircase and find the parts, and then turn the screws and sweat a little bit.
It's amazing. I guess it's just surprising, too, that there's someone not above that person who's pushing, where are the higher up people?
They're all chasing promotions. The guy that I'd sat down to moved from third shift. He's now first shift over at Galaxy's Edge.
Wow.
They're just chasing promotions.
Right.
And they don't want you to disrupt the apple cart, right? So what happens is, and then I am going to end this, but what happens is you're working on a safari truck, something called preventative maintenance. Okay. There are 2 levels of preventative maintenance for a safari truck. There's something like 44 safari trucks in Animal Kingdom. So every truck goes through a rotation of preventative maintenance. There's dailies, there's weeklies, there's monthlies, and there's the technician side and there's the mechanical side. Okay. So there's a ton of maintenance that goes on these vehicles. I can do my PMs. I can do a level 5 and a level 4 PM on a safari truck in 45 minutes. They want you to do it in 2 hours because they want you to run the time so that the accountants don't cut anybody from the department. If you underrun time, you make the department look bad. So they have a chart internally passed around amongst the technicians and the mechanics going, this is how much time we run on everything. So it's not fix the job and move on. It's you're doing a PM on the truck. Don't do it any quicker than anyone else. You'll make us all look bad and someone will get fired. Because they'll
we
realize
don't want you to do anything else.
Right.
Right.
So then they just sit in their truck and they're just on their cell phone all night long. Instead of going, hey, we've done the PMs in the safari truck. Why don't we solve that cold fog issue? Or why don't we go fix that lightning lane at Dinosaur? By the way, you know how many times I fixed the lightning lane at Dinosaur? The lightning lane at Dinosaur had a white screen on the podium. I solved the problem. I went down into the basement of Dinosaur. I found the computer. It didn't have a monitor. I found out that there was a second application that was open, sitting on top of the lightning lane application. But nobody was smart enough to figure that out. So they were constantly using an iPad and constantly opening up new work orders for a problem that had been solved. So I went and got a monitor. I put notes on the monitor. I set it all up. I fixed it. Somebody ripped it all out.
Oh my God.
This is what we're talking
crazy and all very interesting.
I got stories for days. So there we are. Listen,
We love it. We love hearing them.
you sent me that message yesterday on Instagram, didn't you?
Yes,
I knew it.
that was me.
That was
Yeah.
you gave
No,
me the kick in the butt to do this today.
No, oh, I'm so happy. So I'm just sorry I didn't catch you right away. I don't get notifications on Discord, and I think I just opened it up and saw it, and it's like, oh my God, I want to go over. But I think it was already almost like 10:30 at that point. So,
I'm going to put up the replay on YouTube and podcast the audio.
but this is
out.
awesome. No, you definitely should. And I think all of us, I'm probably speaking for most people listening now who are your loyal fans, we love listening to you. So I'm sure most of us would go back and listen to what we missed or didn't hear. And no, it's great. We love hearing the things you have to say, because clearly you know, you're great for Disney. We wish you could run Disney for us and fix everything, obviously. So
Hey,
love hearing
I'd love
everything
to.
you have to say.
Listen,
I wish you could. I always say, I'm the one always putting in the comments that they need Royce in the boardroom, because I just think someone needs to hear what you have to say. And obviously,
let's do a
I'm
hostile
just
takeover.
nobody.
I'm
I'm just a nobody that lives in the Midwest,
Oh, you know what?
but I wish I knew someone who I can get you into the room with the top guys top people, just to
These current people
give
don't
them your
want me in the
thoughts.
room. They listen. They know who I am. Not that I'm anybody, but they're aware of all their content creator people / cast members. I've been pulled into the back offices before. They're not interested in constructive criticism. Maybe new leadership will be open-minded. But there's things you can do. Look, I'm all for a hostile acquisition. The company has faced many hostile acquisitions. I would love to see somebody do it. I'd love to be a part of it. I would just love to see the company not lose its way. I'd love to preserve Walt's vision. I would love to keep aspects of the park intact that celebrate everything that make this country so special and so unique. And I wish that we would stop seeing everything through this lens of politics, even though it's important, and start realizing that at the end of the day, whatever you think, okay, because, you know, there's people that will politicize this whole Rivers of America thing, but whatever it comes down to, if you love Disney, if you love this country, then you probably understand inherently the value of that area of the park and what it truly means. But unless you get loud about it, they're not going to listen. They listen to Splash Mountain because they got their pants pulled down on the internet. Get a petition going with millions of signatures. Get somebody to write an article about it. Get somebody out there on the media talking about it. You know, that's going to be the beginning to them starting to actually want to listen to their audience in a real way. That's constructive.
No, but that goes back to, this is just jumping back. I had brought up Epic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go to Universal too, but I don't substitute. Like, I don't view Universal like, oh, I'm just going to Universal instead of going to Disney. No. Like, that's just a separate, like, I love Harry Potter, so that's just a separate, you know, thing for me. Like, I'm not going to choose, oh, I'm a Universal person now, not a Disney person. Like, I don't view them as competing with each other. Correct. They're like two separate entities for me.
I agree.
So, and I imagine most of the loyal Disney people, you know, the people who love the parks like we do, feel that way. Like, you're not going to stop going because, you know, Universal has Epic. Like, that's just not how it works.
But the whole blood sport mentality in our culture has got to stop. The whole, I'm in my corner over here and you're in your corner over here. So whether it's, you know, all the election nonsense and politics, or whether it's a theme park, it's like, guys, this isn't West Side Story. Like, this is not the Sharks and the Jets. You don't have to pit Universal against Disney. You don't have to choose one over the other. That's not what this is. I'm so tired of everything in our culture being blood sport. Like, the fandom craze has taken over. And you don't You don't
and
have
obviously,
to die on the vine
that's
for
the
this.
same with politics.
Yeah.
And that's the same with politics. Like, I feel like I can have a conversation with someone on either side, and someone can convince me to feel a certain way on either side, I don't ever feel like I'm like, oh, totally one or the other.
The most
like there
boring,
definitely has to be somewhere to meet in the middle.
the most boring conversations are the ones where you're not challenged and you learn nothing. I love listening to people that have different views than me because I want to understand.
Exactly.
I don't need to agree with you. I might because I'm a human
For
being.
sure.
You know, moderation.
sure.
Moderation is key in everything. Like everything we've talked about today,
Exactly.
moderation is key. You know, and that goes
Right.
back to Disney. Moderation, man. Like stop gouging people.
Right.
Like I understand that you want
Right.
to show increased revenue. Okay, but you're doing it's a short-term proposition. The long term is going to catch up to you.
And I know you want to wrap this up, but this is just interesting, and I can't tell you exactly the numerical value. But so I love Yacht and Beach Club. So when my family goes to Disney World, like I went there as a kid and I loved it. So it wasn't even a question for me. I was going to do everything I could to try to get my kids there. So I think the first time we went, that 2013, when I took my own kids with my family and I priced it out, it obviously was always expensive. That's not the point I'm trying to make. It was always expensive. But today, if I were to go on the computer and price out a trip the same exact way that I priced it back out in 2013, it's at least probably 3,000 more than it was.
Right. So why not go like travel the world with that money?
Well, you bring up a very good point. So I don't know exactly, but then that makes me sad because the Disney fanatic in me can't imagine not going there.
So
and then
go to
you bring up
Tokyo.
Tokyo. I would love to take my family to Tokyo, but you know, it's finding that good time and the kids and it's on the table. We're talking about it.
I'm so excited for the prospect of a Tokyo trip with folks, especially if it's a lot of families, because as opposed to like just a bunch of like, you know, individuals, if there's like 4 or 5 families that wind up on this group trip, it'll be amazing. I'll love it because I'll get to see the thrill of the families, like as a whole, the parents watching the thrill of the kids, but you'll be blown away. I mean, it'll be a double win for you because you'll be blown away, and then you'll be watching your kids just be totally like just knocked out because
I'm sure.
it is just look when you go to Tokyo, I've said this before, but when you go to Tokyo and see what they're doing over there and see what it cost you to experience, you're going to rethink the way you go to Disney World. I'm not saying you're going to stop going. You're just going to say, why am I spending all this? I don't need to do it this way. You know, I used to be a firm believer of staying on property, but it's an asinine amount of money.
It is, and there used to be so many things included. Obviously, I mean, the Fast Pass. I mean, we talk about this all the time on your live and in the comments, and you know, the lightning lane. You know, it's just amazing. It's crazy how they just tried to nickel and dime. I mean, it's always been expensive, so that's not, of course, like. It's always been a once-in-a-lifetime trip for so many people.
But you can't keep raising the prices and lowering the perceived value.
Right.
Look, so DoorDash is a great example. Sometimes I DoorDash, right? And sometimes I willingly spend, I hate DoorDash, but sometimes I willingly spend more money than I want to because I'm paying for the convenience. Because in that particular moment, I don't want to lose the hour or whatever it is to leave the house, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm doing something. So there's a perception of value there. There are some days where that perception of value doesn't exist because I have the time. That's how value works. It's perceived value.
Well, and it's funny because I refuse to DoorDash for that reason. I'm like, I can get the same meal or more food if I just get my butt up and go to the place.
Exactly. Right. But sometimes I'm just like in the middle of doing something and then I'm like, oh, but there's a buy one, get one free from a restaurant I would never go to. So now let me go get some, you know what I mean? But I hate it. I hate it. And I will only justify it. And again, I'm justifying it. So I'm probably still wrong, but I will only justify it based off of perceived value. And Disney,
Right. No, but
has
you're
taken-
100% right. If you think of the gas that it takes to drive somewhere,
Yeah, but
of
then you have to
course.
most people do not put monetary value on their time. Okay? My time is worth
Right.
something. My time,
Right.
my rate is $50 an hour. Minimum in life. My rate is $50 an hour, folks. Sorry. If you called me up and asked me to do something, at a minimum, my rate's $50 an hour. When I was an arcade repairman, my rate was $175 an hour per machine. I used to go into doctors' offices, and they'd be like, "You're charging doctors' prices." And I'd be like, "Well, the tables have turned." You know?
Right.
So
Right.
you got to so you got to look at your time. You know, but people don't value their time. So that's all. Perception of value. And Disney has lost the mark on that. You know, they've lost the mark.
Oh, for sure.
It would be so
For
big.
sure.
They could do such little things that would go so far for them.
I mean, the COVID, like, I don't know if this is a COVID thing or not, but like Pecos Bill used to have, like, you used to go order your food, and then there would be this whole buffet bar of guacamole. I mean, it sounds so silly because who really cares? But
It's COVID and
my
it's cost.
kids loved that. You know, it was like, oh my God, they loved that. And now it's gone. And it sounds so stupid. Why wouldn't you go somewhere because of that? But it kind of is like that.
No,
like now we
listen.
don't even want to really eat there anymore.
It's even worse than that. Go to Cosmic Rays. They actually have stickers in places of the fix-in bar. So where the tomatoes used to be, they have a sticker of tomatoes.
Right.
Not only is it chintzy
right.
looking, it's reminding you of what you're missing. But that is a combination of COVID and then budget cuts. Somebody said, listen, they've already gotten used to not having it. We don't need to go back and spend money. In fact, we can keep saving money if we keep this way.
And I think they would be surprised. I think if they went back, I think they probably won't. But if they did, they would be surprised at how much better it would be and how much more happy people would be. And
oh my gosh, listen, just give everybody a fast pass, okay? You know what they did? Somebody brought up Dennis earlier. You know what they did? And I called this. I told people a long time ago they were going to do this. That really expensive pass they're selling now is essentially DAS Pass. Disney said, we can charge for DAS Pass. That's all.
I never thought about it that way, but that's exactly.
That's it.
So now when someone calls and complains that they no longer have that, they're going to say, okay, well, we do offer this.
That's right. So now, I'm sure there's a quota that they have to hit. They probably have to give out X amount of DAS passes to maintain a quota to get some sort of incentive. Okay. And why go above and beyond that? And they probably looked at the numbers and said, we are way above quota. We could charge these people. And if only so many of them convert, it will still be money.
And my hope with that was that nobody would buy it. I'm curious the data. Like, I'm curious how that's going.
Yeah, but
because it's only open to the deluxe resorts, I believe, at the moment.
If 100 people a month buy it, it's worth it. It doesn't cost them anything to do it. But imagine you're spending that kind of money and you're standing in line next to someone that spent, $10 to be in the same line as you. How are you selling the same product for two different price points? That's wild to me.
It's crazy. I mean, I read that article when it first came out. I'm like, nope, not going to be doing that one.
No. First of all, and I've laid this strategy out before, and I could lay this strategy out in 90 seconds, how to get through any park. Okay? I can get you through Epcot in 5.5 hours with no lightning lanes on a good day, particularly now because one of the rides is down, Test Track. All right? So 9 times out of 10, there's a strategy to navigating these parks, and it doesn't fail. Most people don't know that. But I guarantee you.
Right. That is the thing.
I could barrel through the Magic Kingdom by lunch quicker than somebody with that expensive lightning lane.
For sure.
But I think part of it, too, is, I'm an individual running around. If you're a family of 4, and you're doing the starting and the stopping and you're dealing with the kids and you got little ones and strollers and diapers and you can afford to spend that kind of money because it's going to take the stress out of things for you, that person's going to spend it. Perceived value.
Right.
Doesn't make it right.
Well, I'm one of those with kids, and I will not be spending it. But then again, I'm not as knowledgeable as you, but I also know how to work the system. I know how to get into the park. I know where to go first.
Right.
I know, when to hop in this line, but most people, like if I called a friend of mine or a friend of mine called me and said, I'm going to Disney, I'd have to talk to her probably for at least 5 hours.
And then you overwhelm her.
So someone who doesn't know.
She'd be more stressed out.
And then she doesn't want to go.
Right. But that's what they've done.
She doesn't want to go.
But that's what they've done.
Right.
So now,
which is sad, which is really sad.
So let's keep gouging the deep pockets because those people will pay because we've made it so complex.
Right. And I feel guilty for, going back and going back and going back. But
you haven't seen me. People that you haven't seen me in the parks because I feel guilty. Look, I make a living going live. I make a living going live. Okay. And so here's my rationalization. And I really did want to go until noon. So this is great. So I hit my goal. I wanted to start a few minutes earlier, but it's okay. So we're great.
I'm glad I could help.
No, thank you. But it's like, I don't know. I was just about to go on a whole rant. I could go on forever, but it just.
No, I understand. I know you have all the hundreds of viewers who probably message you all day and they're, when are you going to the park? When are you going to the park? When are you going to the park? I'm one of those people
I'm trying to choose
that doesn't need you to go to the park. I don't need you to go to the park to listen to what you have to say. I could care less. I mean, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm, bopping around all day, doing things, laundry, errands. So I can pop on, and if you're live, I love it. I love the park, so I love watching it.
I love
I will still listen to this. Right. And, but I get it. I get the feeling guilty part, but if I don't think you need to feel that way.
But if I'm not happy with Disney, but listen, if I'm not happy with Disney,
right,
in a moment, right? And I'm frustrated with the state of things as it pertains to the working class. Okay. Now I got to show up to the park. Okay. Put on a fake smile. Ask people to support me and hit the gift. It all feels very.
No, I know, and you're a real person. You're not a phony, So
I don't need
get
the attention. I didn't start this for that. I didn't think it would be going this far. So no, I care about these things, and then they become contradictory, and then I can't wrap my head around it. And what we're doing now, I would have done last week, but I wanted to get it all out in the podcast yesterday first. So this is the way I'm wired. And I didn't want to go back to the park and be just focused on revenue. It's just weird. I mean, I have to make a living. But this is the fault.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it. And the one thing I will say is, obviously you get thousands of viewers, some of who just watch purely for the what ride is next. I mean, we crack up about it in the chat, and it's annoying. But you do have that base that only would watch, I only would watch you. I'm not flipping to the other random creator with their equipment. I was in the parks, I saw it, it's so obnoxious. So I'm not watching anything right now, so it's not like I hopped onto someone else's channel. So there is someone else's channel for the people who just want the, what ride is next? Are you going on Haunted Mansion? And, all that. But then for the people who are listening to you now, like us, we watched you for your opinions on things and, listening to the things you have to say. And we respect you for that. So if you did go to the park, I understand why you would feel guilty. And I understand the comments would probably drive you crazy from all the randoms who just want to see the park, but from my perspective, I don't think you would have to go and be phony, and fake, and So that's just my feeling.
I appreciate that. It's just it's just sort of like, I don't know. I guess I have too much of a conscience. But I
get it.
It'd be very easy just to go, hey, let's go on the ride. It's not a care in the world, and I care too much.
I know.
And I need to make a living. I need to make, maybe. I need to make a living. you know.
You are.
But I'm also, I have like a ton of skills, and I don't need to make a living doing this. So whereas maybe somebody else is still trying to figure it out and chase something because it's a trend, and that's why they got into it, I got into this to escape, you know, a dire business situation with the pandemic. I look,
Right.
when the hurricane hit and I was in the park, and then it was like, why are you in the park? And then I wasn't in the park, and it was, why aren't you in the park? I was like, yo, I got stuff to eBay from 3.5 years ago from my old business. I don't need to put up with this nonsense. I'm going to go focus on listing stuff because I'm sitting on
No,
money.
I don't blame you.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I can do anything.
Right.
Like I'm just being honest. I'm capable of doing anything. The problem I have is I oftentimes overthink what it is I want to do. But as an entrepreneur, I recognize that whatever I'm going to succeed at is going to take a lot of work. So I stop.
Right. Well,
before I
that's
jump in.
why you're so successful, because you're not just jumping into something just to jump into it. It's a well thought out process, which
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to teach my kids right now.
I wish you the best in that,
So-
and I appreciate the support. And look, this
No,
setup has been
thank
sitting
you.
here. I've been meaning to do this for a while. That message yesterday was a put. I mean, it's just, y'all, I have been.
No,
very
it's
supportive.
awesome. I appreciate it because I struggle with, like, I mean, the election and stuff. Who do you listen to? Who do you trust? You know, you want to hear from people who see it from both sides. You don't just want to hear the same stuff getting shoved down your throat from this channel or that person. So
I kept my
I
voice quiet.
appreciated it
I didn't tell
yesterday.
anybody what to do. And I didn't
No,
expect to have
and you
this.
shouldn't.
And I didn't
And
have
you
this.
don't need to.
I didn't think I'd have a visceral response at the level that I did. Okay. But you got to remember, I've been involved in that world for a long time. The last election cycle, I was heavily involved with Noel Kassler and Jenny Cohn. Jenny is an election specialist. I mean, I was involved with helping a lot of people. I mean, if you've heard the stories, I've told them. I mean, I had interviews with James Carville. I single-handedly put Rush Limbaugh in a tizzy. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. And,
Right.
I am not
Yeah.
a Democrat, and I never will be, folks. I am a centrist, and I'm an independent, and I'm an American. And I just want to take this platform, and I want to do what we can do together to focus on community and be there for each other and not vilify everybody.
Right, and no pointing fingers and all this. Right. Well, that's the only way things will change with Disney and with the world. So
Well,
it goes hand in hand.
thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. So sweet. We're about the 3-hour and 40-minute mark here. We have hit the goal on TikTok. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you, everybody on YouTube, for watching. I appreciate you. It's been an absolutely fantastic experience. I will podcast this out, and I will see you next time.